Chapter 2388. That was right. From the beginning, Yun Jian had expected Wei Min to stop her here. Hence, Yun Jian had called Wei Lin to the scene. None of this was a coincidence. Revealing her identity as slaying God in front of everyone and flinging out the fan with spiritual power was all to lure the mysterious man out. It was worth mentioning that Yun Jian and Ce had planned all of this long ago. What she did not expect, however, was what Wei Min meant when she told her that she was pregnant. Yun Jian's admission to the Imperial College was also part of her plan. It was not a coincidence that she had obtained the fan with spiritual power. In other words, Yun Jian's admission to the Imperial College was to obtain this fan and lure the mysterious man out. This was because this fan was called a wooden fan. The wooden fan, the sandalwood box, and something else that Yun Jian and Ce were still looking for. They would be able to rule the entire deity continent. And the thousands of continents. Naturally, they would be able to take down Earth easily. This was written in the records left behind by the ruler of the deity continent since the creation of the deity continent, who knew how many years ago. Hence, from the moment the mysterious man captured Yun Jian's younger brother and forced Yun Jian to exchange the sandalwood box for Xiao Yunju, the mysterious man had an ulterior motive. With these three things, he could easily rule the entire deity continent and the thousands of continents. The sandalwood box was one of them. The sandalwood box was one of them, and so was the wooden fan. Hence, the mysterious man had his eyes on it from the beginning. However, Yun Jian had gotten it first. Yun Jian had used the wooden fan just now to lure the mysterious man out. Tsk tisk. The mysterious man revealed a pair of deep, pitch-black eyes and stared intently at Yun Jian. He laughed arrogantly and pulled his black robe tighter around his body. Then, he stared at Yun Jian and Ce. So you've already set up an ambush. Today, right here, is the day you die. Yun Jian uttered, her gaze fixed on the mysterious man as she gripped the wooden fan. When Yun Jian and Ce fought against the mysterious man, both of them suffered great losses because of the mysterious man's tricks. Now that Yun Jian and Ce were at their peak, the mysterious man was definitely no match for them. Even if the mysterious man used the 100-fold potion, he might not be able to defeat Yun Jian and Ce. This was the difference between them. This was also the reason why the mysterious man had been hiding in the dark and did not dare to show up directly. He, is that so? Then you are gravely mistaken, sorcerer god. The mysterious man laughed loudly and said. This black-robed man who had suddenly appeared. Wizard goddess Yun Jian? The surrounding people from Piluo City's upper class, as well as Luo Jiejun, Luo Jiechen, Hong Ling, and the others who were present, were all puzzled when they saw this scene. What's going on now? What sorcerer god? What the hell is going on? Luo Jiejun's expression could no longer be described as an expression. Just as everyone was bewildered and Yun Jian frowned, Yun Jian suddenly clutched her stomach as excruciating pain shot through her. What did you do? Yun Jian clutched her stomach, feeling like something was flowing out from her lower body. The pain made Yun Jian frown, but she held it in. Ce took a step in front of Yun Jian and frowned. Fear that had never appeared on his expressionless face. Xiao Jian, what's wrong? Ha ha ha. It's true that I can't defeat both of you if you join forces. Too bad, I've already drugged the sorcerer god before you knew she was pregnant. It's probably a problem whether or not she can keep the baby. Now that the sorcerer god is gone, you're the only one left. I've also developed the 100-fold potion that can increase my ability by 10,000 times. Do you think you're still my match? Ha ha ha. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2389. Sorcerer Goddess, Sir God, I bet you don't know how I drugged the Sorcerer Goddess. Come to think of it, I have to thank this idiot. Ha ha ha. The mysterious man chuckled and paused. He then pointed at Wei Min, who was lying paralyzed on the ground after her head was crushed by Ce's kick. After chuckling, the mysterious man continued. If this idiot didn't stop your school doctor from telling you about the sorcerer goddess's pregnancy, I wouldn't know where to start. Haha. This idiot really hates you, sorcerer goddess. She was the one who drugged you. The swords that you were holding in the fencing competition were all stained with these two drugs. The combination of these two drugs turned into an abortion drug. Normal people wouldn't react to it, but this pregnant woman smelled it. Haha, if a pregnant woman smelled it, she would miscarry on the spot if she exceeded a certain time limit. These two drugs were unique to thousands of continents and did not exist on Earth. In fact, Yun Jian had already smelled the two drugs, but she did not think of it that way. She had just found out that she was pregnant not long ago. It was a mistake, but she did not expect to really be pregnant this time. Not only was she pregnant, but it was also used by the mysterious man against her. Aside from Yun Jian's ignorance, Yun Jian was not omnipotent. Whether it was the sorcerer goddess or the slaying god in her past life, she did not know much about gynecology in the medical field. What Yun Jian knew was how to kill a person in the shortest time possible and where a person's Achilles heel was. Ha ha ha, I did it. There's no way you can take my brother Jun away from me. It's all your fault for coming to the Wei family as Wei Lin. Ha ha ha. Wei Min, who was paralyzed on the ground, laughed mercilessly. It was not surprising. After Yun Jian revealed that she had abandoned her biological sister and found out that Yun Jian was the slaying god, she rushed to Yun Jian and shouted at Yun Jian, "You're finished." This was because Wei Min had been used by the mysterious man to drug the swords. It was a drug that could cause Yun Jian to miscarry. She wanted to destroy Yun Jian. If anything happens to the child in her womb, all of you will be buried with me. Just as the mysterious man and Wei Min finished speaking with their strange words, a voice that was as cold as ice in the summer suddenly sounded. There wasn't the slightest bit of warmth in it. Siyi's dark eyes were so cold that it was frightening. His handsome face that looked like it was sculpted, with an aura that was enough to frighten everyone present. He placed his left hand, he placed his hand on Yun Jian's abdomen, and injected, channeling his spiritual energy, without reservation. It was into her abdomen, his, of, of, to, of God goddess. Of, tssss goddesses. Goddess, that was. Luo Jejun, Luo Jichen, Wei Xiao, and all the other members of the upper class present turned pale when they saw this scene. They had never seen such a bizarre scene. Coupled with Siyi's, a huge wave of fear and uneasiness surrounded their hearts. At that moment, a tall and handsome figure suddenly flashed across everyone's eyes. In the next second, Ce went to the mysterious man and grabbed the man's collar. His well-defined hand with bulging veins was a testament to his fury. His rich voice rang almost simultaneously, "You're right. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. 10,000 times potion. Even if you've swallowed the 10,000 times potion. As the ruler of the gods' continent, I'll tear you to pieces right here and now. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2390. Without giving the mysterious man a chance to react, Ce grabbed the mysterious man's collar with one hand and attacked him with the other. His speed was so fast that the naked eye could not capture it. Oh my god, am I seeing a ghost? What's a sorcerer god? Are these things that suddenly appear around us the enchantment from the anime? And what's that god continent? What's all this? There were already some people who were so scared that their faces turned pale. They were frightened by this illogical and unscientific thing in front of them. What was going on? What was going on in this world? Was it really normal for them to see one scene after another in front of them? Luo Jejun, Luo Jichen, Hong Ling, Wei Zhe, Wei Xiao, Wang Ruoya, Wei Lin, and the rest were shocked when they found out that Yun Jian was slaying God. Then, they almost fainted from the unrealistic scene before them. What's going on here? Wei. Why is that person targeting all of you? Luo Jichen looked at Yun Jian from afar and swallowed the words Wei Lin that he was about to call out. Just as Luo Jichen finished his sentence, Siyi's handsome hand had already pierced through the mysterious man's chest and crushed his heart. Ugh! The mysterious man's chest was pierced through by Ce, and there was a trickle of blood at the corner of his mouth. However, this was not a fatal injury to high-level immortal cultivators from thousands of continents. Ce did not give the mysterious man a chance to react at all. Above his handsome face, which was infuriatingly handsome, was a pair of sharp black eyes that were stained with blood at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. He pierced through the mysterious man's chest with one hand, all the way from the chest to the back of the mysterious man. His other bony hand covered the mysterious man's head at the speed of light, directly pulling the mysterious man's head out from the ground. The speed was so fast that it shocked everyone present. However, after recovering from the shock, everyone present was shocked by Ce's furious technique. The strength of a person's hand and fist could actually penetrate a person's chest and uproot a person's head. The mysterious man seemed to have lost all signs of life, his body paralyzed. Dead? Did he die just like that? Someone asked in a trembling voice. Is the mysterious man dead? How could this be? Ha ha ha. Do you think I'm dead? I've already taken the 10,000 times potion. Now, my strength is 10,000 times stronger than before. Divine Lord, O Divine Lord, no matter how powerful you are no match for me. Moreover, you still have your wife, the witch goddess, who is about to have a miscarriage. In her current state, not only can she not help you, she might even become a burden to you. The mysterious man laughed cruelly. In that second, his chest, which had been pierced by Ce, automatically healed. The head that had been uprooted by Ce automatically healed back into the neck. 10,000 times potion. Swallowing this kind of medicine was definitely a very harmful thing to the body. However, as long as he killed the Divine Lord, no one in the entire deity continent would be his match. The mysterious man retreated more than 10 meters away in a flash. His wide black robe covered his original appearance. He stretched out his hand and laughed cruelly in an extremely disgusting tone. Although I've taken the 10,000 times potion and my strength is indeed not enough to defeat you, Divine Lord, I'll make it clear today. You, Divine Lord, will lose for sure. For a woman, you will lose for sure. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2391. But, if you give up the witch god, you may still have a chance to survive. So give up this woman. She's just a woman. As a senior immortal, what can you not have? She's just a woman. If she dies, so be it. As the mysterious man spoke, he started laughing. His laughter sounded as if he was remembering something that made him sad. As he laughed, a line of tears flowed down from the corners of his eyes, the only part of his body that was exposed under his black robe. As he laughed, a pair of dark eyes flowed out. Finally, the mysterious man stopped laughing. He stared at Ce fiercely and said, "Give up your woman. You're in a high position, what can you not have? You can have a lot of women. For a woman? Is it worth it? If it weren't for a woman, would I have fallen to this point?" Yun Jian blinked from afar when she heard the frenzied words. Yun Jian covered her stomach. Although Ce had injected a strong spiritual power into her, the piercing pain only eased a little. If she were an ordinary woman, she would have fainted. Although Luo Jejun, Luo Jichen, and the others who were standing around did not understand the mysterious man's strange words such as witch god and senior immortal, they were not stupid. The mysterious man meant that as long as Ce gave up on Yun Jian, he would have a chance to survive. From this, it was not difficult to tell that except for the mysterious man himself, this place was surrounded by his subordinates. As long as the mysterious man gave the order, his subordinates would attack Yun Jian. Ce was fighting against the mysterious man who had taken the 10,000 times potion, so he could not spare time to save Yun Jian. The mysterious man's subordinates would attack Yun Jian immediately. In everyone's opinion, Yun Jian must have no strength to fight back at this moment. The severe pain was enough to kill a living person. Yun Jian was already very good that she could stay awake and not fall down. If Yun Jian hadn't been pregnant and he hadn't attacked Yun Jian, with Yun Jian's strength, she would have been beaten by the mysterious man. At this moment, the mysterious man had also seen this point, so he had arranged this plan. If Ce gave up on Yun Jian, then with Ce's strength, it would be easy for him to escape safely. However, if he diverted his attention to protect Yun Jian, sooner or later, he would be attacked by the mysterious man and end up dead. Sinister. It was too sinister. Even Luo Jiejun and the others had realized this. Luo Jiejun couldn't help but think that if he were in Ce's shoes, he would probably hesitate to give up on Yun Jian. However, just when Luo Jiejun and everyone present thought that Ce would give up on Yun Jian, or even if he didn't give up, he would hesitate for a few seconds before replying to the mysterious man. Ce didn't even frown for a second before his mellow voice rang out firmly. For her, it's worth it. There are indeed many women in this world, but in my eyes, she's the only one who can be called my woman. Ce didn't even hesitate for a second. After the mysterious man finished his words, he suddenly responded. As he spoke, he glared at the mysterious man with bloodshot eyes. In front of everyone present, he spoke without the slightest bit of hesitation. His firm words made everyone present feel incredulous. Give up on her. If she dies, how can I live? Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2392. From the moment the mysterious man spoke, Ce didn't even have time to blink or hesitate. If she died, how could he continue living? Without her, he wouldn't be able to continue living. Whether it was the Sir God from 1,000 years ago or the Ce from 1,000 years later, his survival, birth, growth, and even his position at the top were not for fame or status. They were all for her. The Sir God, the ruler of the God's continent, the leader of the Inhun organization. He could discard all of them because he only wanted her. Ce wasn't a selfless person. He wouldn't give up her outstanding qualities just to protect his empire from falling into the hands of evil. Ce could be imperfect and not outstanding, but he couldn't lose her. Ce's mellow voice rang out. His words stunned everyone present for a moment. Luo Jiejun, in particular, was stunned. He stared with wide eyes. If the roles were reversed at this moment and he was Ce, he would definitely consider it seriously. In spite of it, Ce had never hesitated at all. Good. 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 Since you want to be a pair of lovebirds, I'll fulfill your wish. The mysterious man laughed coldly and snapped his fingers. In less than half a second, more than 10 figures in black robes appeared in front of everyone from the mysterious man's subordinates who were hiding in the boundary. Go and deal with the sorcerer goddess. Kill her and then come and help me. The mysterious man laughed and officially entered Ce's eyes. What a pity. Although it's very touching, all of you still have to die. The mysterious man raised his voice as he spoke. Luo Jiejun and the others didn't even dare to let out a fart, let alone participate in this unbelievable event. At the same time, the men in black robes were already swarming toward Yun Jian. When Ce saw this, he turned and walked towards Yun Jian. Your opponent is me. Today, I'm going to watch my woman die in front of you. The mysterious man's figure flashed as fast as lightning. In the eyes of Luo Jiejun and the others, it was as if a person flashed past them. They couldn't even catch a trace of him. At this moment, the mysterious man's subordinates were already in front of Yun Jian. They surrounded Yun Jian. The tables had turned. The pain in her abdomen caused beads of sweat to roll down her forehead. This was witnessed by the people around her. She was finished. They were finished. Luo Jiejun and Luo Jichen thought so. Just as everyone thought so, Yun Jian, who was bending over with her hands on her stomach, straightened her back and stood up in front of everyone's eyes. The butterfly's knife that had caused a storm in the god's continent. The original form of the saber was the god-vanquishing blade. She's going to, at this moment, Luo Jiejun, Luo Jichen, and the mysterious man's subordinates were all stunned. However, just as everyone was wondering what Yun Jian's intention was, Yun Jian held the butterfly's knife in one hand and wiped the sweat off her forehead with the other. She revealed a red arc that shocked everyone present. Then, in front of Luo Jiejun, Hong Ling, Wei Zhe, and the mysterious man, she chuckled. I, the sorcerer god, led the Yulong continent to conquer thousands of continents 1,000 years ago. The meridians in my hands and feet were destroyed, and I was stabbed countless times. The pain was 10 times more unbearable than today. But in the end, I broke the heads of those people and pushed the Yulong continent to the throne of the first continent among thousands of continents. Do you think that I, the sorcerer god, can't fight just because of you and this little pain? Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2393. Because I am the daughter of the Wu clan of the sorcerer tribe, the king of the Yulong mainland, the sorcerer goddess. These simple words came out of Yun Jian's mouth, but it made Luo Jiejun, Luo Jiechen, Hong Ling, Wei Zhe, Wei Xiao, Wang Ruoya, Wei Min, Wei Lin, and all the people from the upper class of Biyao city who were standing around feel as if they were on a battlefield. Yun Jian, who was holding a butterfly knife in front of them, was like the grim reaper from hell. She seemed to be stepping on thousands of corpses. Wherever the blade passed, she was the king. A young girl who seemed to be in her teens, in front of everyone present, when everyone thought that she would definitely not be able to hold on, actually straightened her back, held the blade in her hand, and fought against the 4 sides. Everyone was completely stunned at the same time. Imagine, if they were to switch roles and become Yun Jian, they would probably not even be able to stand straight under the intense pain from their abdomens. At this moment, Luo Jiejun and the dozens of people present all held their breaths. Even Wei Min, who was paralyzed on the ground after her head was smashed by Si Yi's kick, took a deep breath when she heard the sound. Seeing this, the mysterious man's eyes were fixed on her fiercely, and there was a flash of astonishment in his eyes. Ha ha ha, you are indeed the sorcerer goddess, the god of war who was once popular on thousands of continents and made all the strong people on thousands of continents tremble in fear. You are indeed very powerful. But it's a pity that I only have 1 bottle of the 10,000-fold potion, and I have already used it myself. However, the 100-fold potion is in the hands of my dozens of subordinates. Each of them has 1 bottle. When the mysterious man said this, Luo Jiejun and the others, who were already dumbfounded, were shocked again. Although this was the first time Luo Jiejun and the others had heard of the Yulong mainland, the sorcerer goddess, and the divine emperor, these series of things were completely unrealistic and did not exist on Earth. However, after listening to the mysterious man for so long, they could more or less understand some of the ambiguous words. For example, the 10,000-fold potion and the 100-fold potion. Moreover, the mysterious man had previously mentioned that the 10,000-fold potion was a potion that could increase his strength by 10,000 times. Then, as the name suggested, the 100-fold potion could naturally increase one's strength by 100 times. It was really too sinister. He was too calculative. In Yun Jian's current state, her physical strength would be affected more or less, and the mysterious man had all his subordinates take the 100-fold potion. Then Yun Jian, wouldn't she be done for then? At this moment, even Luo Jiejun and the others could not help but feel panic and fear from the bottom of their hearts after hearing the mysterious man's words. Then what about Yun Jian? With Luo Jiejun taking the lead, the group of dozens of people turned to look at Yun Jian. Luo Jiejun and the others thought that they would see shock, seriousness, and fear on Yun Jian's face. However, Luo Jiejun and the others found that not only did Yun Jian not show any signs of fear, but she also did not show any signs of fear. On the contrary, in front of everyone present, she tore off a few layers of clothing from her clothes and tied a tight knot around her abdomen. If one's finger accidentally pierced into a thorn, under normal circumstances, pinching the tip of one's finger when pulling out the thorn could relieve the pain. This was the same logic as what Yun Jian had done. However, no one present had thought of this at this moment. It was only when they saw Yun Jian tightening the bandage-like layers of clothing around her abdomen that they came back to their senses and made the connection. However, at this moment, they saw Yun Jian skillfully tying the bandage around her abdomen and holding the god-vanquishing blade in her hand. She looked fearlessly at the mysterious man's subordinates who had taken the 100-fold potion in front of her. Her aura did not diminish at all. At that moment, from Yun Jian's actions, Luo Jiajun, Luo Jiachen, and the rest seemed to see the slaying god in Yun Jian's eyes when she was at her peak, the one who terrorized countless international bosses. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2394. Page 1/1, Ha. Just as Luo Jiajun, Luo Jiachen, Hong Ling, and the rest were so shocked by Yun Jian's actions that they forgot where they were, a cold snort sounded out. A mysterious man in a black robe, with only a pair of deep, dark eyes exposed. He was dressed in a black robe, and the black robe covered his entire body. What are you waiting for? Send the witch god on his way. The mysterious man bellowed, as he charged towards Siyi's attack. At this moment, the black-robed men obeyed the order and charged towards Yun Jian. She possessed a physique that thousands of continents could only dream of. Any immortal cultivator who came within 3 meters of her would lose all their spiritual energy instantly. However, not long ago, Yun Jian knew that the mysterious man had developed a potion that could resist her special body constitution. Putting everything else aside, the mysterious man might not be as capable as Ce and Yun Jian, but the way he came up with the potion and the dirty tricks he pulled were enough to prove that he was a formidable character. Back in the real world, the black-robed men surrounded Yun Jian and attacked Yun Jian from different angles. This attack caused Luo Jiajun and the rest to turn pale. This was basically forcing Yun Jian into a dead end. How was she going to retaliate? From the perspective of Luo Jiajun and the rest, Yun Jian had already been forced into a dead end. However, it was obvious that their worries were unnecessary. Yun Jian channeled her spiritual energy into the god-slaying blade. She held the god-slaying blade in one hand and placed the other gently in front of her abdomen, as she stood there motionless. Don't tell me she doesn't know how to fight back. At this moment, someone suddenly spoke up. If it was in the past, Hong Ling, who was standing beside Luo Jiajun, would have said something like, "June, you're the best. I think she can't hold on any longer, so I'll go help her." Moreover, the words that came out of their mouths were lazy. It was as if they were winners in life and could turn any situation around as long as they made a move. However, at this moment, even if Hong Ling did say so, Luo Jiajun would not dare to get involved in this mess, let alone whether Hong Ling would dare to exaggerate. Just when everyone was wondering how Yun Jian was going to deal with them, Yun Jian turned sideways and stabbed her blade into the head of a black-robed man. She did not give anyone a chance to react as she turned around. The 3 black-robed men in the rear had already launched an attack on Yun Jian. With a swift turn, Yun Jian evaded the 3 black-robed men's aggressive attacks. At the same time, she went behind one of the black-robed men and stabbed the man's back where his heart was from his back. The god-vanquishing blade, as long as one was stabbed by the god-vanquishing blade, the black-robed man's soul would be destroyed on the spot. Yun Jian killed 2 of the black-robed men in one move. This made the rest of the black-robed men pause and they didn't dare to step forward for a moment. The first 2 black-robed men that Yun Jian killed were the weakest among the group of black-robed men. However, just as Yun Jian was about to kill the 3rd black-robed man, she felt a huge pain in her abdomen. She gripped her butterfly knife tightly and did not even frown. She did not leave any loopholes for the black-robed men. If she left any loopholes, she would be sending herself to eternal damnation. On the other side, Ce attacked the mysterious man expressionlessly. The mysterious man kept defending. Rather than defending, it was more accurate to say that Ce stabbed her hand into the mysterious man's internal organs. The mysterious man immediately healed and couldn't be killed. Just as the mysterious man's hands, arms, and head were about to be healed by Ce again. It's time to end this boring game. Senior Immortal, prepare to die. The mysterious man had just finished speaking and was about to heal his hands, arms, and head. Is that so? A cold voice sounded. Siyi's black eyes were bloodshot and his voice was so cold that it made people tremble. His voice was so cold that it made people tremble. In the next second, he reached out and grabbed at the air. The organ that belonged to the mysterious man, which could have healed after being plucked out, was crushed in front of everyone's eyes, and turned into a pool of blood. This. No. How is this possible? The mysterious man's sharp voice sounded. He couldn't heal his wounds and his body was crushed by Siyi's hand. However, before the mysterious man's voice fell, Siyi's ruthless and cold voice sounded again. At the same time, he gathered the powerful spiritual energy that he had accumulated throughout his life and attacked the mysterious man one last time. If you had attacked me from the beginning, you would still be fine. However, you attacked her, so you must die. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2395. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. If the mysterious man had only targeted CE, CE would not have cared if the mysterious man was dead or alive. But of all things, he shouldn't have touched his woman. Ah. You. Sir God, you were hiding your strength. The mysterious man's head and hands were crushed by CE, leaving only his body and legs. He screamed at CE from the depths of his soul. Although the mysterious man's head was no longer there, he could still speak. This was because when a high-level cultivator's strength reached a certain level, even if his body was destroyed, his soul would still be there and he would not be considered dead. 1,000 years ago, Yunjian, who was the sorcerer god, was killed by the mysterious man. Both his body and soul were destroyed and his soul should have been destroyed. Therefore, even though the mysterious man's body was destroyed by CE, his soul could still scream. As long as a high-level cultivator's soul was not destroyed, he would at most be severely injured if his body was destroyed. When he found a new body, he could still be revived. However, it was not that easy to kill the soul of a high-level cultivator. Of course, to CE, it was not difficult to destroy the soul of a high-level cultivator. Die. CE, on the other hand, channeled the powerful spiritual force he had accumulated throughout his life to a single point, his cold gaze devoid of color. Just as CE was about to launch the final attack on the mysterious man and destroy his soul completely so that the mysterious man could not be revived. Activate self-destruction. 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 Haha. Even if I die, the sorcerer god will die with me. The mysterious man ordered the remaining 3 black-robed men with a whistle that came from the depths of his soul. In the blink of an eye, only 3 of the black-robed men were left. The sorcerer god, who had led the Yulong continent from the lowest continent to the top, was not simple at all. However, the mysterious man still had a trick up his sleeve. The 3 black-robed men accepted the order. Like 3 puppets, the 3 of them poured all of their spiritual energy into their hearts. In just a few seconds, they detonated their dantian. Every immortal cultivator of the myriad of continents had a fatal trump card. By injecting all of one's spiritual energy into one's heart and detonating one's dantian, one would be able to generate energy from the depths of one's soul to self-destruct. In other words, it would explode on the spot. The 3 black-robed men had self-detonated right next to Yunjian. Even if the explosion did not kill Yunjian, the child in Yunjian's womb would not survive. Seeing this, CE didn't even think about it. She immediately retracted the spiritual energy she had gathered at one point to launch the final attack on the mysterious man. She then rushed towards Yunjian. In a flash, CE appeared in front of Yunjian and wrapped her arms around Yunjian's slender waist. Without any hesitation, she wrapped her arms around Yunjian's abdomen and carefully supported Yunjian as she flashed more than 10 meters away. This process did not take more than 3 seconds. Boom, boom, boom. 3 seconds later, an earth-shattering sound was heard. The 3 black-robed men exploded on the spot and turned into a pool of blood. Ah! The mysterious man peeled off his physical body on the spot and screamed in agony. Using a bit of spiritual energy, his soul abandoned his physical body and fled the place in a wretched state. The 3 black-robed men's self-detonation left no survivors in their wake. Luo Jiejun and the others were implicated in the explosion and died horribly. Where they were just now, other than Yun Jian, who was protected by Siyi's firm chest without losing a single strand of hair, everyone else was a bloody mess. Siyi used his back to withstand the pressure of the 3 black-robed men's self-detonation on Yun Jian. When everything returned to silence, Yun Jian squirmed out of Siyi's embrace. "Xiao Jian, are you okay?" Siyi wrapped his arms around Yun Jian to check if she was injured. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Yun Jian was unharmed. You're hurt?" Yun Jian's heart clenched when she looked up and saw a trail of blood at the corner of his lips under his handsome face. His back was crushed by the force of the 3 black-robed men's self-detonation. Even the clothes he wore were torn apart and the smooth skin on his back was now a bloody mess. Seeing her sad face, he pulled her into his arms, completely ignoring the injuries on his body, and gave her a handsome smile that made the whole world lose its luster. "Xiao Jian, I'm glad you're okay." Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 2396. Page 1/1. As long as his Xiao Jian was fine, it did not matter how badly he was injured. Yun Jian's eyes moistened for some reason when she heard Siyi's words. She opened her mouth but realized that she could not say anything. Yun Jian stopped talking and hugged Siyi, careful not to touch his wound. I'm fine." Yun Jian had just uttered the words when beads of sweat trickled down her forehead again. Something seemed to be flowing out from her lower body. Wiping her hand away, she saw that her hand was covered in crimson blood. The mysterious man abandoned his physical body at the last moment and tore his soul apart to escape. Even for an advanced cultivator, it was no different from suicide to tear apart one's soul and escape. This was because once a person's soul and body were separated, the soul would escape. For the mysterious person, he would suffer a severe injury. Moreover, the backlash from consuming the 10,000 times potion would be more than enough for the mysterious person to suffer. It would probably take a few years for the mysterious man to struggle to even walk normally, even if he found a physical body to reside in again. There was no need to even think about it. In the next few days in Biyao City, there was a major incident that shook the city and even the country. Today's report is that a bizarre incident has happened in Biyao City. The remains of most of the upper-class people in Biyao City were found in Emperor College. The corpses are suspected to have been blown up. It's reported that the cause of this case is unknown. The survivors are also upper-class people in Biyao City. It's said that after the incident, they kept their mouths shut when the police questioned them about the case. It's suspected that they were scared out of their wits. The police are still investigating the case. Please stay tuned to China Central News broadcast. We'll be broadcasting the latest news as soon as possible. In a shopping mall that sold electrical appliances in Biyao City, the televisions displayed on the counters were broadcasting the latest news. In the Kosha mercenaries far away in country M, Snake Lizard was sitting on the sofa in the lobby of the Kosha mercenaries, staring at the television in front of her as she watched the same news. It had already been 3 months since the incident that day. Thud, thud, thud. A tall and muscular figure came through the door. For the first time, Snake Lizard stood up anxiously and looked at Tiger Leopard, who walked in from outside the door, asking, "Have you found it?" Under the worried look on Snake Lizard's face, Tiger Leopard shook his head truthfully. "I didn't find anything on my side." After saying that, the Tiger Leopard saw that the Snake Lizard's face had obviously darkened. After a while, a few more figures walked into the Kosha mercenaries' hall. Snake Lizard stepped forward and asked before the other party could speak, "Is there any news from your side?" The visitors were Dai Ani, Gui Yen, Gui Lian, Qin Yu, and all the higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries. "We've already confronted each other at the door." Diana spoke to Snake. Lizard on behalf of everyone else. Just as she said that, Diana paused. She furrowed her brows deeply, and finally could not bear to continue. There's still no news from Sister Jian. In the past 3 months, Snake. Lizard had sent out all the higher-ups of the Wuxia mercenaries to search for Yun Jian, but there were no clues at all. It was as if Yun Jian had vanished from the face of the earth. Yun Jian had always kept in touch with Snake. Lizard. Even when Yun Jian went missing for 2 years when she went to Deity Continent's Holy Spring, she tried to contact Snake. Lizard. Hence, Snake. Lizard was not worried back then. However, it had been 3 months since Yun Jian had gone missing. There was not a single piece of news left for her. This had never happened before. Sister Lizard, Sister Jian wouldn't. Qin Yu's voice trembled in disbelief. She wouldn't. Snake. Lizard denied. Amidst the silence, Diane pondered for 2 seconds before speaking suddenly. Although we didn't find any trace of Sister Jian, I recently received a strange piece of news. In the past month, the world's top obstetrics and gynecologists, as well as nutritionists, have all gone missing one after another. What's even more bizarre is that 50% of the world's high-end baby product stores have been ransacked. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2397. F***CK, who did this? How wicked. Fox could not help grumbling when he was concerned about Yun Jian's safety. Diane cut the fox off and said, the problem now isn't to find out who did this. It's to see if this has anything to do with Sister Jian's disappearance. There's no need to rob a baby store when Sister Jian is missing, is there? The disappearance of the world's top obstetrics and gynecology specialist and nutritionist shouldn't have anything to do with Sister Jian, right? Raccoon analyzed philosophically. Keep investigating Sister Jian's disappearance. Remember, don't leak any information. I don't believe that anything has happened to Sister Jian. Before Sister Jian comes back, we must protect the Wuxia mercenaries. Snake. Lizard cut off the men's speculations and said solemnly. The men nodded in unison at Snake. Lizard's words. A few days later, however, something went wrong in the disappearance of Slaying God, the top secret agent in the international ranking, the boss of the Wuxia mercenaries, spread like wildfire internationally. Once the news was out, it was impossible to keep it under wraps. Needless to say, the news did not come from Snake. Lizard and her men. Despite the global uproar, Yun Jian, who was staying on an uninhabited island, did not hear a thing. It had been 3 months since the last incident. 3 months ago, Yun Jian almost had a miscarriage, but she was brought to this uninhabited island by CE without a word to recuperate. Forget about the possibility of a miscarriage, Yun Jian had gained weight from being fed by CE in the short span of 3 months. Her belly was obviously showing as well. This uninhabited island was very secluded. Normally, no one would come to this island. At the same time, Yun Jian was sunbathing under the sun. CE, on the other hand, sat beside Yun Jian and kept his hand on Yun Jian's stomach, caressing it softly every once in a while and leaning his ear against it to listen to the movements in her stomach. Until the arrival of Morrison. Young master, 10 years worth of premium baby products and clothes for 1 to 10 years old have been prepared, Morrison told CE with a smirk, maintaining his solemn demeanor. Yes. CE nodded and tousled Yun Jian's hair, asking Yun Jian in an indulgent voice, Xiao Jian, are you hungry? Yun Jian realized that CE's favorite question was, are you hungry? After asking her if she was hungry, he asked if the baby in her stomach was hungry. I'm not hungry. Yun Jian pursed her lips and said. Are you hungry? As expected, CE immediately asked. Cough cough. The questions came one after another. Even Mo's son, who was standing at the side, had calluses on his ears. After all, for Mo's son, who was still a virgin, this topic was too ambiguous. Young master, I'll take my leave first. Have a good time with young madam. Contact me anytime if you need anything. Morrison slipped away after that. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it had been almost a year since the incident. Many things happened in this 1 year. For example, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's child was born. It was a chubby boy named Guxing, implying that they wished him happiness and peace for the rest of his life. On the 1-month anniversary of Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's child's birth, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian held a banquet and invited their friends and family. Although Yunjian and Ce were not there, Qin Yiru was not surprised. Shuang, Morrison, Adam, and even Lin Wei were there. Of course, Si Luo, Luo Mei, Lan Su, and Yi Ling were there too. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2398. Guxing's birth made Qin Yiru feel more like a mature woman. It was not like how she used to look 20 years older than her actual age due to overwork. Instead, she had the charm of a woman in her 40s. Yun Jian and Yun Yi were Qin Yiru's flesh and blood. Guxing was Qin Yiru's flesh and blood too. As for Xiao Yunju, Duanli, Duanya, and the rest of the Guxian, Qin Yiru treated them the same. There was nothing wrong with that. That night, because everyone was in high spirits, they drank more than usual. Especially the innocent Si Luo, who was led by Qin Yu to drink. Shuang was not around at the moment. Aya, what are you afraid of? Drink, drink. We won't rest until we're drunk. Qin Yu was so happy that she hugged Si Luo's shoulder and drank in big gulps, even asking Si Luo to drink with her. After meeting with Han, Qin Yu was informed that Yun Jian was safe and sound. At the same time, the Kosha mercenaries were informed as well. Everything had returned to its peaceful and beautiful starting point. Sister Qin Yu, I really shouldn't drink anymore. They say that drinking makes things worse. Sister Qin, you shouldn't drink too. Si Luo blinked his large eyes, wanting to snatch the bottle of wine that Qin Yu was drinking from. Aya, drink, drink. Little Luo Luo, are you afraid of that one at home? Don't be afraid, I'll protect you. Drink as much as you want. Qin Yu's bold look moved Si Luo. All right, I'll take a sip then. Si Luo, who was extremely innocent, was very curious about wine. After the first sip, Si Luo closed his eyes from the bitterness of the wine, his brows and cheeks scrunched up tightly. It's so bitter. Si Luo could not stand the bitterness at all. He stuck out his tongue and complained to Qin Yu. It won't be bitter after a few more sips. It's delicious. Listen to me. Come, come, cheers. Qin Yu clinked her glass with Si Luo's. After a while, Si Luo drank quite a bit. By the time Luo Berry found Si Luo, he was already drunk. I can drink, I want more. Si Luo was holding a wine glass in a drunken stupor as he tried to pour more wine. You can't drink anymore, Sister Qin Yu. How could you let Luo Luo drink so much? Luo Mei looked at Qin Yu and reprimanded her softly. Qin Yu, who was sitting in front of them, raised a small wine glass in her hand and poured herself a small cup of wine. She took a sip and grinned at Luo Mei. Drinking will spoil things. I'm trying to be a matchmaker. Little girl, you wouldn't understand. Actually, Qin Yu was about the same age as Luo Bailey, but her tone made Luo Bailey think that Qin Yu was a very old elder sister. When Shuang entered the room, the scene he saw was, ha. Ha. I want to drink more. Don't take my wine glass, I still want to drink. Give me back my wine glass. Si Luo's cheeks were red as he grabbed the wine glass in Luo Berry's hand and refused to let go as he spoke. She was giving him wine. Shuang was about to explode when he saw this. He strode over to grab Si Luo's hand and brought her home without saying goodbye. After bringing Si Luo home, Shuang pinned her against the wall. Why are you drinking? Si Luo, who was still in a daze, became domineering again when she heard the word wine. I still want to drink, drink. Give me wine, I want to drink. Si Luo was still tugging at her clothes as she spoke. Her body was warm from the strong alcohol, so she wanted to take off her jacket to continue drinking. However, she did not take off her jacket when she tugged at her clothes. Instead, her voluptuous breasts were exposed under her collar. Shuang was speechless. His beloved woman was tugging at her clothes in front of him. This scene shocked Shuang so much that he turned his head away immediately. However, when he did, Shui Ying's eyes met with Si Luo's cherry red lips. They were pink and tender. You asked for it. I'm not a decent person either. Shuang punched the wall and held the back of Si Luo's head as he kissed her. A Night of Madness. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website. Chapter 2399. Shuang had tolerated Si Luo for a long time now. Seeing Si Luo tugging at his clothes and the corners of his clothes, he could no longer hold it in. However, what made Shuang lose control was that Si Luo had tugged on the wrong clothes, grabbing the collar and pulling it down. Shuang took in the beautiful view below. It was no wonder that Shuang could not hold himself back and pounced on her. He had already said that he was not a good person. The next morning, the scorching sun shone through the curtains onto her face. Si Luo rolled over and rolled off the bed. The headache from drinking too much last night and the burning sensation coming from her lower body scared Si Luo into sitting up straight. Yesterday. Si Luo scratched his head as he suddenly recalled that someone seemed to have dragged him away to a hotel. Looking at the bed, there was no one there. There was a red bloodstain on the bedsheet where she had slept. Si Luo had been led astray by Qin Yu and Luo Berry, so she was no longer as innocent as before. Of course, she knew what it meant to see the bloodstain on the bed and the swelling pain coming from her lower body. Si Luo stood up absent-mindedly and ran out of the hotel room after putting on her clothes like she was escaping. She had been raped. That was Si Luo's first reaction. At Qin Yu's house. Qin Yu, Leng Mei, Gu Nianji, who had returned from the Divine Continent, and Luo Berry were playing mahjong. La la la. I finally won this time. You guys can wash my clothes for the next 2 days. You're welcome. Qin Yu put the mahjong tiles on the table and stood up. Turning around, she faced Leng Mei, Gu Nianji, and Luo Berry with her butt and made a face at them. Didn't I go easy on you this time? That's why you won. I pitted you, so I went easy on you. Let's play another round if you dare. I'll make you kneel down and call me daddy. Leng Mei stepped on the bench and hooked her pinky at Qin Yu. No. I'm not playing anymore. The Primetime Calabash Brothers is replaying. I'm going to reminisce about my childhood. You guys play on your own. Qin Yu stuck her tongue out at Leng Mei and ran back to her room. She had only taken 2 steps when someone knocked on the door of Qin Yu's suite. Who is it? Qin Yu ran to open the door in a pair of bunny slippers. Just as the door was opened, a petite and pitiful figure pounced into Qin Yu's arms. Sister Qin Yu. Woo. Si Luo threw himself into Qin Yu's arms and bawled even louder. What's wrong? What's wrong? Who bullied you? I'll beat him up for you. Qin Yu quickly patted Si Luo's back and asked. Yesterday, Si Luo sobbed. She had been raped. He didn't even know who the other party was. But how could she have the nerve to say such words? It's fine. Tell me, I'll make the decision for you. If any man dares to bully you, I'll castrate him. Qin Yu flexed her muscles. Sob. I was raped. Si Luo really said it out loud. She cried even harder as she spoke. Sister Qin Yu, I don't want to see him anymore. Can you take me away? Si Luo felt sorry for Shuang. She was no longer clean. Huh? Qin Yu was confused. However, just as Si Luo finished speaking, someone grabbed her hand and Shui Ying's face enlarged in front of Si Luo in the next second. Si Luo was shocked to see Shui Ying, but she started crying even harder. Sob, go. 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 She had let him down. Sob, sob, sob. Just as Si Luo was crying herself out of breath, Shui Ying appeared. Please remember the domain name of this book. .com, Wonderful Book Mobile Version Website. .com. Chapter 2400. Si Luo was being forcefully embraced by Shui Ying, but she froze when she heard Shui Ying's words. Little girl, who told you to be so dishonest and seduce me when you were drunk? How can you blame me for that? Shui Ying thought that Si Luo was no longer upset after knowing that it was him who did it last night. Moreover, Shui Ying said it so righteously as if he was the one who forced Si Luo. Who would have thought that Si Luo would sob loudly after 2 seconds of silence when she heard Shui Ying's words? She even slapped Shui Ying's shoulder and shouted, "Go away. Go away. I don't want to see you again." Shui Ying was speechless. What was going on? He knew from Qin Yu that his Luo had feelings for him too. He had only made his move a little earlier yesterday, so why was she unhappy when she heard that it was him? Shui Ying was stunned but quickly recovered. He pulled Si Luo into his arms again. All right, don't be angry anymore. I admit that I took advantage of you yesterday. He was halfway through his sentence when a mop came flying at Shui Ying. Shui Ying's gaze sharpened as he hugged Si Luo's slim waist and dodged to the side, dodging the mop that Qin Yu had thrown at him. F***ck, what are you doing? Shui Ying could speak warmly and gently to Si Luo, but he wasn't so friendly to anyone else. Shui Ying's words came out of his throat when he saw that it was Qin Yu who had attacked him. Coupled with the thick and deep scar on Shui Ying's neck, Shui Ying's appearance earlier was rather frightening. However, Qin Yu was not afraid. She pulled Si Luo from Shui Ying's arms and glared at him murderously while holding the mop. She shouted back at him, "Call me your grandfather. You can come and take my little Luo away after you reflect on your mistakes. Otherwise, don't even think about entering my house." Qin Yu did not care about how dark Shui Ying's face was as she slammed the door shut with a loud bang. The sound was so loud that the neighbors next door jumped. She even locked the door after closing it. Shui Ying was afraid that Si Luo would cry, so he did not forcefully pull him back. If Si Luo cried, it meant that he was really wrong. Qin Yu might be right. But, where did he go wrong? Shui Ying flicked his short hair. Since he couldn't figure it out, he decided not to think about it anymore. He scratched his head and heard Si Luo's cries coming from the room. He didn't dare to open the door for fear that Si Luo would cry even harder. Shui Ying turned around and left. Rushing to Gu Yunjian's house, Shui Ying told Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru everything that had happened yesterday and asked them what had happened to Si Luo. After all, only Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru had more experience here. Unexpectedly, after Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru heard Shui Ying's words, Qin Yiru laughed crisply. She patted little Gu Xing's back and laughed heartily. You guys are so stubborn. You don't know how girls think. Look at you, Auntie, don't keep me in suspense. Shui Ying asked anxiously. Qin Yiru pulled little Gu Xing's short legs forward and stopped keeping him in suspense. You guys are so good. Girls care a lot about their first time, but you took advantage of her when she was drunk last night and she lost her first time in a daze. This means that she lost a beautiful memory in her life. How could she care about you? Qin Yiru's words stunned Shui Ying. He had not thought of that. Therefore, Shui Ying bid farewell to Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru and rushed to Qin Yu's house. What an idiot in love. Qin Yiru could not help but shake her head and complain as she watched Shui Ying leave with his long legs. Weren't you also an idiot in love before you married me? Gu Junjian reached out to scratch Qin Yiru's nose and said with a smile. How is that the same? Qin Yiru held little Gu Xing's butt and gently grabbed her hand to gesture at Gu Junjian. Gu Junjian laughed heartily again. Ring, 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 just as Gu Junjian was laughing heartily, an urgent ringtone suddenly rang. After picking up the call and chatting for a while, Gu Yunjian's brows that were still laughing earlier calmed down slightly. He turned to look at Qin Yiru and said to Qin Yiru, "I'm going out in the afternoon. Wait for me at home." "Okay." Qin Yiru answered, but she did not mention the content of Gu Yunjian's call for the time being. In a certain tea house, in an empty private room, Gu Junjian sat at a large table. Gu Junjian only raised his head when the lights flashed and 6 shadows covered the light in front of him. "What can I do for you?" The people who came were none other than Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, Jiang Weiwei, Lu Shiyun, Fang Xiaoran, and the 6 members of Hongfan Monarch Squad. Gu Junjian raised his eyebrows, stood up, and saluted Chu Ning and the others. There were tears at the corner of his eyes, but he said solemnly to the 6 of them, "From today onwards, I'm no longer your superior. From today onwards, I will no longer be your superior officer. All of you will be reassigned to a new officer. For years ago, I was the one who brought you into the special forces and made you a member of the team. But unfortunately, from today onwards, I can't walk the path with you in the future. Gu Junjian of the 3rd Military Region number 311 salutes you. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2401. Gu Yunjian's words were like an atomic bomb that exploded on the spot. Chu Ning and the rest of Team Monarch, who thought they would receive a new mission, were dumbfounded. "What? Officer Gu, you can't lead us anymore?" It took Chu Ning a long time to recover from the shock of Gu Junjian not being able to lead Team Monarch anymore. "Yes, that's an order from the higher-ups. Remember what I told you when you first joined the team. We must obey our superiors' orders with all our lives. We'll protect the country. That's the motto of the Special Forces." Gu Junjian stood respectfully in a military posture. He repeated what he had said to Chu Ning and the rest. His aura was imposing and dignified, and he did not lose any of the heroic bearing of a soldier. After saying this, Gu Junjian paused. His voice became softer, but his imposing manner did not diminish at all. "This is also my last request to you as your superior officer." Although the words that came out of Gu Yunjian's mouth were extremely solemn and serious, Chu Ning and the others instantly felt tears welling up in their eyes when they heard those words. Gu Junjian had received a call not long ago that he would be retiring from the Special Forces. Unlike other armies, Gu Junjian was not young anymore. In another 2 years' time, he would be nearing his 50s. In this regard, the country gave its soldiers the best treatment. After retiring, Gu Junjian would still be able to receive an extremely high pension. However, Gu Junjian had been in the military for decades. His feelings for this position were no longer just a job for his livelihood. It was a responsibility, an obligation that could not be forsaken. An honor. Team Monarch, listen up. Just as Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, and the rest were speechless from Gu Yunjian's words, Lu Shiyun, the captain of Team Monarch, suddenly shouted. At that, the 5 members of Team Monarch, excluding Lu Shiyun, stood in their military stance and looked at Gu Junjian. "Salute to our officer Gu." After saying that, Lu Shiyun took the lead to hold back the tears in his eyes and saluted Gu Junjian. All good things must come to an end, and there is no perfect ending in life. For example, Gu Yunjian's retirement was a good thing for Gu Junjian, but it was also a pity. The retired Gu Junjian could enjoy the rest of his life with his pension, but unfortunately, he had to leave the army that he had spent half his life in. A few days had passed since that incident, and Si Luo had already forgiven Shuang. Shuang took the risk of being beaten up by Lin Wei, Adam, and Mo Sun to leave his position in Anhan and take Si Luo on a holiday. At this moment, in Qing Yu's house. "Hey, you guys, all of you are in pairs. I'm the only one who's alone. In the future, don't show off in front of me for no reason. Otherwise, I will. I will. I will." Gu Nianji was holding an electric mosquito swatter. She swung it a few times and gestured at Qing Yu, Leng Mei, and Luo Mei. "What will you do?" Qin Yu bumped her fists and glanced at Gu Nianji fiercely. I'll go outside and let you guys have the room. Gu Nianji was deflated. She pouted and twisted her body to admit defeat. Look at you. Qin Yu glanced at Gu Nianji in disdain. Just as Gu Nianji curled up like a deflated balloon on the sofa, the doorbell suddenly rang from outside the door. I'll go open the door. Luo Mei ran to open the door diligently. Lan Su had left the child with Adam this afternoon, saying that she wanted to go out and play with them. Luo Mei was excited. The moment she opened the door, it was not Lan Su in plain clothes that greeted her, but a clean and handsome young man. God Li Nong. Seeing that it was an unfamiliar girl who opened the door, Li Nong smiled politely and asked directly, "Hello. May I know if Gu Nianji lives here? Please remember the domain name of this book." Mobile reading website. You're not allowed to make the slightest mistake here. Otherwise, you can pack up and leave. Do you hear me? Lu Cheng was an advanced special forces soldier who had returned from overseas. His capabilities were impressive, and his military rank was higher than Gu Yunjian's. On this point, Lu Cheng's sense of superiority was already very obvious. Yes, sir. The 6 members of Team Monarch could only respond to Lu Cheng. Also, I've brought back 2 teams of Special Forces soldiers who are similar to your age from overseas. Since you're still young, all 3 teams will fight side by side in the future. I'll send you to complete missions that aren't difficult. Also, Team Monarch's capabilities should be the weakest among the 3 teams. I hope you'll work harder in the future. The other 2 teams graduated from top international Special Forces schools while you're just students studying in domestic military schools. I hope you know who's stronger and who's weaker. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2403. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Lu Cheng had returned from overseas. Based on his past achievements, he was assigned to lead the 6 members of Team Monarch. It had been a long time since Yun Jian participated in a mission with Team Monarch. Team Monarch was well known in Country Z, but Lu Cheng, who had returned from overseas, knew nothing about them. What Lu Cheng did not know was that even without Yun Jian, the 6 members of Team Monarch, including Chu Ning, were young but capable and experienced enough to complete the mission on their own without working with any other team. Moreover, their efficiency in completing missions was impressive. They had not even competed yet, and the new commanding officer, Lu Cheng, had already belittled them to be inferior to the other 2 teams who had returned from overseas like Lu Cheng. Chu Ning was the first to lose her cool, standing up to Lu Cheng. "Commanding Officer Lu, you can't deny Team Monarch's capability like this. We don't deny that the other 2 teams who returned from overseas are strong, but Team Monarch isn't weak either. Moreover, we haven't even competed with the other 2 teams you're talking about. How would we know who's stronger?" Chu Ning had always been a straightforward person and would not play any tricks. She would always speak her mind and did not know how to beat around the bush. Chu Ning. Captain Lu Shiyun was standing beside her. He lowered his voice and called out to Chu Ning. He wanted Chu Ning to shut up so that she would not provoke the new officer. Sometimes, the best way to fight back when one was treated unfairly was through strength. Chu Ning realized that she had acted rashly at Lu Shiyun's words. Chu Ning lowered her head and kept quiet. She thought that most commanding officers would turn a deaf ear to this and let bygones be bygones. Lu Cheng's eyes glinted sharply at Chu Ning's words. "I heard that Slashing God is the strongest in Team Monarch." Lu Cheng had read through Team Monarch's information, so he knew. "Yes." Lu Shiyun answered. "Where's she?" "As a member of Team Monarch, isn't she here today?" Lu Cheng asked. "Jian. Slashing God only comes to help when Team Monarch is out on a mission," Lu Shiyun blinked and said with a hint of concealment. It had been a long time since Yun Jian went on a mission with the 6 members of Team Monarch. When it was in Gu Yunjian's hands, this was allowed. Gu Yunjian's request was very simple. When they were out on a mission, they were not allowed to let down their guard at all. Normally, he would be very hard-working during training. Other than that, he would not interfere with other trivial matters. However, Lu Cheng was the exact opposite. Lu Cheng's requirement was that every member had to be present every day, not a single minute less. He didn't care how well they trained, but he had to ask all the members to report to him every day. Therefore, after hearing Lu Shiyun's words, Lu Cheng was very displeased. The army is all about discipline. Rules. This was not a game. If she, the god of slaughter, did not come, then she would pack up and leave. Remember to pass on the words I said today to her one by one. With that, Lu Cheng looked hopelessly at the 6 members of Team Monarch before shaking his head. Who's the second strongest in Team Monarch? Lu Cheng asked at that moment. Me. Jiang Weiwei replied. Come here, Lu Cheng said. Seeing this, Jiang Weiwei was puzzled, but she still walked over. However, just as Jiang Weiwei and the others walked up to Lu Cheng reached out, grabbing Jiang Weiwei's wrist with his left hand and pressing both her wrists together with his right. He lifted his leg and kicked Jiang Weiwei to her knees from behind, subduing her. You've never competed before? How do you know how strong you are compared to the other 2 overseas teams? Ha! This is Haitang, the second strongest in Team Monarch. Weak. So weak that you can't even take a hit. How can you compare yourself to the other 2 teams that returned from overseas? Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2404. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, Haitang was Jiang Weiwei's code name. Lu Cheng never talked about real names, only code names. Unless they were close to Lu Cheng. Jiang Weiwei did not expect Lu Cheng to be her opponent. After she was subdued, she struggled to no avail. The 6 members of Team Monarch were not that angry at first, but after hearing Lu Cheng's actions and words, their rage reached its peak. However, since Lu Cheng was their current commanding officer, none of them dared to do anything further. After all, Lu Cheng was a commanding officer and was already 38 years old. He had been recruited into Interpol and was later sent to the Special Forces training base for 10 years of secret training. It was normal that Jiang Weiwei was no match for him. Is there anyone else who disagrees with my arrangement? Lu Cheng grabbed Jiang Weiwei's shoulder with one hand and both her wrists with the other. He pinned Jiang Weiwei to the ground like a police officer arresting a criminal. Before Jiang Weiwei could react, Lu Cheng had already attacked her. Moreover, Lu Cheng pinned Jiang Weiwei to the ground in one go. He did not control his strength at all. Jiang Weiwei's shoulder was in so much pain that she could not breathe. Seeing Jiang Weiwei's pained expression, as the captain, Lu Shiyun could only submit for the time being. No. That was against his will. That's good. Lu Cheng let go of Jiang Weiwei and said a few more words before leaving Team Monarch to practice on their own. A few days later, Chu Ning and the others sat paralyzed in a coffee shop. I'm so tired. I miss the time when Yin Jian was around. Chu Ning wiped her sweat and sighed. Tiredness was caused by the training. In fact, they did not train much under Lu Cheng. However, the reason why they were so tired was because Lu Shiyun and the others were pressuring themselves. They were not convinced. They wanted to strengthen themselves. Order a cup of coffee. We'll continue training after that, Lu Shiyun said. Everyone agreed. Then, Chu Ning saw a newspaper on the table. Although she flipped a page, a huge headline caught her attention. She could not help but read it aloud. Breaking news. The female doctor with the highest delivery success rate in the world, Lin Nada, has gone missing for days. What are you reading? Chu Xiangnan poked his head over to read the newspaper when he heard that. Chu Ning had finished reading the reporter's report. Oh, my God. This Lin Nada is the world's best in obstetrics and gynecology. She seems to have been kidnapped. The kidnapper. Is the kidnapper out of his mind? How dare he kidnap a female doctor in the department? On the deserted island, uninhabited, Chu Ning and the others. Inside a simple yet clean house. C. Calm, Li. Translation Jiang her she was translation as her translation was translation. His translation is Li. Translation is translation for 9 translation. Pregnant over women. She was that it in Lu her? Just like now, when he kissed her, he had to avoid touching her stomach. As the kiss went on, Siyi's lips moved to Yunjian's neck and trailed down. Xiao Jian. He called softly. It had been 2 months since Siyi dared touch Yunjian. As her stomach grew bigger, he did not even dare to press himself against Yunjian. Yunjian hummed in response to Siyi, allowing him to do whatever he wanted. However, just as Siyi was about to kiss Yunjian's neck, she suddenly felt something sticky flowing out from her lower body and her stomach throbbed in pain. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2405. Page 1/1, It hurts. Yunjian suddenly held her hand on her belly that was as big as a ball. Is she about to give birth? Xiao Jian, I'm going to be a father. Ce was delighted. In the next second, Siyi's cries for help resounded throughout the entire island. Another 5 months passed. It was winter now. It had been exactly a year since the incident at the Imperial College. It was winter again, and the end of the year was approaching. There was only 1 month left before the 2004 New Year. It was still very cold in winter. The 6 members of Team Monarch had spent 5 months under Lu Cheng's leadership. These 5 months were very difficult for the 6 members of Team Monarch. At the same time, the 6 members of Team Monarch had met up with the other 2 teams. Today, Lu Cheng gathered the people from the 3 teams together. You will set off tomorrow. You will complete the first cooperative mission together. The difficulty of this mission is a little high, but I believe that with the Tier X squad and the most awesome squad leading the way, this mission will definitely not be a problem. Lu Cheng said to the members of the 3 teams. Chief Lu, are you saying that you want us, Team Monarch, to provide cover? Lu Cheng had just finished when even Lu Shiyun, who had always been calm, blurted out in agitation. The 3 teams were all similar in age and had joined the army at about the same time. Lu Cheng wanted Team Monarch's Tier X squad and the most awesome squad to take the lead. In that case, Team Monarch could only act as cover. As long as the mission was successful, all the glory would be taken away by the members of the Tyrannosaurus squad and the most awesome squad. Team Monarch, on the other hand, would at most receive verbal praise from their superiors. In short, the commander of a team was very important. Yes, is there a problem? After Lu Cheng heard Lu Shiyun's words, he spoke as if nothing had happened. Lu Shiyun clenched his fists tightly in an instant. Even Lu Shiyun, who had always been calm, couldn't take it anymore. Team Monarch used to be trained in domestic military schools. It's your honor to serve as a cover for overseas talents like us. Be content. The captain of the most awesome team was called Zhu Ao. The second half of his name sounded like a foreigner's name. That was because Zhu Ao was born in a family where his parents hoped that he would become a student who had returned from overseas. Now that Zhu Ao had lived up to everyone's expectations, he was naturally pleased with himself. What are you talking about? Jiang Weiwei was furious when she heard Zhu Ao's words. I say, Team Monarch hasn't been to any international military school or special forces training, right? Being able to cover for us is already an honor for you. What? Am I not being detailed enough? When Zhu Ao heard this, he spoke again. Because of Lu Cheng's cover, Zhu Ao and the other members of the strongest team were very cocky. However, the members of Tier X squad were very friendly to Team Monarch. Hence, the leader of Tier X squad stepped forward to speak to Team Monarch. Zhu Ao, don't be too, what about me? This is the truth. Zhu Ao raised his head and shouted. With this back and forth, they somehow ended up quarreling. As they quarreled, Zhu Ao wanted to use the opportunity to wield the knife, but his hand slipped and the knife flew far away. Stop quarreling. Aren't you satisfied with my arrangement? Whoever isn't, come and defeat me. Who dares? Who dares? Lu Cheng suddenly shouted when he saw this. However, everyone knew that Lu Cheng was targeting Team Monarch. Me. Just when everyone lowered their heads and no one dared to make a sound, a beautiful female voice that sounded like the sound of nature suddenly rang out. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2406. Page 1/1, Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Lu Cheng was stunned by the sudden appearance of the stunning girl. The girl was walking towards them. Every step she took, the aura she exuded was enough to make everyone gasp. It was as if the person walking towards them was not one of his subordinates, but his commanding officer, his superior. From the girl, Lu Cheng seemed to have seen an aura that not even the overseas advanced special forces soldiers with outstanding military exploits had. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and looked at Yun Jian in the eye. Yun Jian looked delicate and pretty. At 19 years old, Yun Jian was even more alluring than before. Her breasts were even more voluptuous, and her hips were just right. Coupled with the powerful aura she exuded from her every movement. She was every man's dream. Is this little beauty the slashing god of Team Monarch? Does she have a boyfriend? Zhu Ao's eyes widened when he saw Yun Jian. He whistled and stared blankly at Yun Jian as she walked towards him. Zhu Ao was 1.8 meters tall. He was not short and was tall and handsome. At least overseas, he was a hot commodity in the eyes of girls. Especially with his height and his identity as a special forces soldier, he was the ideal man for girls. When Zhu Ao's words fell, no one paid him any attention. Yun Jian was already standing in front of everyone. At 19 years old, she had already given birth to a child. Judging from her appearance alone, she had taken better care of her body than before. Her skin was smooth and supple, and her face was full of collagen. She was like a maiden who had just stepped out of her house, ignorant of the world and its evils. However, such a beautiful girl was holding a small knife that Zhu Ao had accidentally flung away earlier. She nimbly caught the knife in her hand and stood in front of everyone. That pair of beautiful eyes that were as clear as still water turned to look at Lu Cheng. Her beautiful eyes looked at Lu Cheng and she sneered. You're the new officer? These imposing words sounded like a superior asking a subordinate a question. Lu Cheng didn't know why, but when he heard Yun Jian's words, he suddenly shivered. Then, he forced himself to look into Yun Jian's eyes. Yes. He didn't mind that Yun Jian didn't call him sir. Let's just go, Yun Jian suddenly said. What? Lu Cheng was stunned. Defeat me, or shut up. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and glared fiercely at Lu Cheng. How was this the tone of a subordinate speaking to a superior? After hearing this, everyone present was dumbfounded. Just when everyone thought that with Lu Cheng's temper, he would really hit Yun Jian, Lu Cheng suddenly changed his words. Hit what? Everyone, return to your positions. Tomorrow, they would set off to complete the mission. Go train by yourself. After saying that, Lu Cheng left. It was only after Lu Cheng was gone that Chu Ning and the others came to surround Yun Jian. Ah, Yun Jian, you're finally back. Chu Ning hugged Yun Jian tightly. Yun Jian, you don't even know how overboard this sir is. Chu Ning and the 6 members of Team Monarch started talking at the same time. Seeing this, the members of the most awesome squad did not stir up any trouble and wanted to leave. When they were leaving, Yun Jian brushed the saber in her hand across Zhu Ao's cheek and threw it to the ground. She said to him, "Your saber is dirty, take it back." The members of the most awesome squad were indignant, but in the end, it was Zhu Ao who stopped them. "Humph, she's just a girl, you don't make a difference. Do you think Team Monarch can make a comeback with you? Just wait and see." A girl from the most awesome squad spat at Yun Jian, then turned and left with the most awesome squad. After the training ended, Yun Jian left the place. Just as she walked out of the military area, she saw a Lamborghini sports car parked not far away. Beside the car stood a man who was so handsome that even gods would be angered. The man was holding Mama E. Mama Iya. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2407. The handsome man was holding a child wearing a little red hat in his hand. The child was only 5 months old, but she could already babble. Normal children would need at least 8 to 9 months to learn how to speak. Some would even need a year before they could babble and pronounce words that were not accurate. This child could already babble and call out, "Mama," when she was only 5 months old. If some parents whose children learned how to speak very late saw this, they would probably faint from envy. Of course, this was just a joke. "Mama ya, Mama," the child was wearing a very cute little red hat. His face was rosy and tender. Just by looking at him from afar, his tiny hands, which were only the size of 2 adult fingers, were waving up and down. He was babbling and yelling some words that were not very clear. When she saw Yun Jian, the cute child habitually extended her hand towards Yun Jian and spoke in a soft voice. Because she was happy, the child sat on Siyi's hand and excitedly lifted her butt up and down. Her body swayed along with her hand. The moment she saw the child, Yun Jian's gaze softened. She smiled slightly and walked over to Ce in a few steps. "Mama, Mama," the child jumped and reached out towards Yun Jian. She even revealed her toothless mouth and her 2 dimples were very obvious. She had a pink and tender face and her facial features were very delicate and beautiful. Just by looking at her, one could tell that the child looked very similar to Yun Jian. It was a girl. "Mama, Mama Yi," just as Yun Jian reached out her hand, the child, who was sitting on Ci's hand, leaned her body forward and threw her head towards Yun Jian. Yun Jian smoothly took the child from Ci's arms. The child had not been named. Yun Jian thought back to the 1 year that she had spent on the uninhabited island. Ever since she found out that she was pregnant and almost had a miscarriage due to a mysterious person's plot, Ce had brought her to an uninhabited island and used up 500 years of his spiritual power to protect her and their child. In the end, Ce kept her in captivity on an uninhabited island and even had to carry her up the stairs. It had to be said that Yun Jian was even fatter than a year ago. However, the fat wasn't in her fat, but in her chest. Her cleavage was so plump that it could almost burst her top. It was so big that Ce couldn't even grasp it with one hand. Cough. Later on, she gave birth to a child. It was also a smooth birth. In the past 5 months, Ce had refused to let her get up after giving birth. He had even been the one to serve her tea. She said that she had to go through confinement. After giving birth, she had to go through confinement and rest for a long time. If she didn't recuperate well, her body would collapse. In the past year, Ce had almost memorized all the information on obstetrics and gynecology. Her understanding of obstetrics and gynecology was even deeper than that of the world's best obstetrician and gynecologist, Lena, who had the highest success rate in delivering babies. Not long ago, Ce had sent Lena back home. Before she left, the world-class obstetrician and gynecologist, Lena, shook her head and shouted at Ce in disbelief, "My lifetime's worth of experience can't compare to yours in a year. Come work in our obstetrics and gynecology department. Young man. I'll give you a bonus. You have to come." Yun Jian hugged the little girl who was pouting excitedly and reached out to pinch her little face. Huff, huff. At this moment, CE carried a 5-month-old boy with one hand and walked towards the Lamborghini sports car. The 5-month-old boy looked at Yunjian, the little girl in Yunjian's arms, and then at CE. With a confused look on his face, CE picked him up by the back of his shirt and carried him into the car. Please remember the domain name of this book. The mobile version of this book. Chapter 2408. Page 1/1. The little boy looked pitiful as he was carried into the car by CE and thrown into the back seat of the Lamborghini. Be gentle, he'll hurt. Yunjian hurriedly said when she saw this. He won't die. CE threw the innocent-looking boy into the narrow back seat. He walked over and carefully took the little girl from Yunjian's arms before getting into the driver's seat. Yunjian pursed her red lips. Seeing that the little boy was playing with his clothes without crying or making a fuss after being thrown into the back seat of the Lamborghini by CE, Yunjian heaved a sigh of relief. She walked around the car to the front passenger seat and got in. CE carefully placed the little girl on his lap. He turned his head and carefully fastened Yunjian's seatbelt before handing the little girl over to Yunjian. Yunjian hugged the little girl tenderly in her arms. The little boy in the back seat kept playing with his clothes. Sometimes, he would even put his fingers in his mouth and suck on them. After sucking his fingers for a while, Yunjian turned her body and reached out to pat the little boy's finger away. She said softly, "Dirty. Dregs, dregs." The little boy was very smart. After hearing Yunjian's words, he mimicked Yunjian's pronunciation and said a few words. Then, the little boy reached out and stuffed his little finger into his mouth again. He sucked on it twice and made a tsk sound. When Yunjian saw this, she wanted to pull the little boy's hand out of his mouth. However, she did not expect the little boy to reach out his other hand and mimic how Yunjian had slapped his hand away. He reached out and slapped his own hand away. Then, he made a sound that was not very accurate. Dregs. Yunjian was speechless. From the rearview mirror, he saw the little boy's obedient behavior and the little girl in Yunjian's arms. He could not get enough of her no matter how much he loved her. CE's handsome smile was enough to make heaven and earth lose its luster. In the next second, he stepped on the accelerator. The Lamborghini sped off and disappeared from the entrance of the military base. Gu Yunjian's house. Adam and Emo-san were assigned a mission by CE. It was a very noble mission with a very dangerous mission. Oh my god. How are we going to name it? It's already been 5 months and we still haven't come up with a name. Seriously. Young master, isn't this making things difficult for us? You might as well be like my stinky brat and give him a random name. What kind of name can we come up with? Adam was bored. The 5 Births Baby Naming Book of the 5 Birth Baby Names Book, S5 Baby Names as 5 Babies 5 Birthdays as Baby Names Book. He had been flipping through the books for the past 2 days. Young master has given us a mission. Less talk, more action. We must complete it. Emo-san said to Adam methodically. These words caused Adam to roll his eyes towards the sky once again. Then, he reached out and flipped through the pile of books in boredom. Good. Give it a name, give it a name. I cut some oranges. They're sweet and delicious. Eat some first before you continue. At this moment, Luo Berry walked over from the kitchen with a plate of fruits. Okay. Adam was almost dazzled by the pile of books. When he saw Luo Berry coming out with fruits, he threw the books aside and ate the fruits first. Emo-san was still flipping through the books. Adam, who had taken a bite of the oranges, suddenly said, "Oh right, I thought of a very nice and domineering name." Emo-san looked up at him. Adam said confidently, "A girl's name will be C the most awesome, and a boy's name will be C Woody." Top reading website, M. Chapter 2409. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, hearing Adam's words. Emo-san was speechless. Rockberry was sitting beside Emo-senator. She was peeking at Emo-san from the corner of her eyes as she stuffed an orange into her mouth and chewed it lightly. Hearing Adam's words, Rockberry suddenly reacted. Her brain was working faster than her hands. Before she could turn her head, she spat out the orange onto Emo-san's trousers. Rockberry's face turned red as she quickly took the orange back from Emo-san's trousers. I accidentally stumbled upon a certain secret location. Rockberry's face was almost as red as an apple. She lowered her head and could not help but laugh at the name Adam gave her. She was afraid that Emo-san would notice her awkwardness, so she lowered her head and tried her best not to let Emo-san notice her awkward action. Her fair and glossy hand was also holding the orange that she had accidentally spat out from her mouth. She was secretly retracting her hand. However, just as Luo Mei's hand was about to retract, a glossy hand grabbed her wrist before she could do so. Did he notice the awkwardness just now? Rockberry's face turned as red as a strawberry. Unexpectedly, Emo-san reached out and took the cut orange that Luo Berry had taken a bite out of. Then, he stuffed it into his mouth. That's what I ate. Rockberry was stunned. When she realized that Emo-san had eaten something that she had eaten, her face turned as red as an apple. Ha ha ha. How is it? How's the name I gave you? Is it domineering enough? Look at how excited the two of you are. Am I so talented in giving names? Adam did not know how terrible the name he gave was. He stepped on the bench and looked at Rockberry and Emo-san confidently. After 2 seconds of silence, Adam said calmly, "When young master and young mistress come back, I'll tell them the name. You can go pack up your clothes." Emo-san raised his eyes and looked at Adam calmly as usual. What? When Adam heard Emo-san's words, he stared blankly. A cloud of suspicion flashed before his eyes. Pack his clothes? What for? Young master will tell you what to do. Emo-san glared at Adam, then lowered his head and continued reading the information in his hands. The flashy Lamborghini sports car was parked at the entrance of a baby training center in Longmen City. In order to avoid being recognized by acquaintances and causing unnecessary trouble, Yun Jian deliberately wore a pair of sunglasses. The pair of black sunglasses on Yun Jian's face covered her eyes, but it couldn't hide her exposed tender skin. Perhaps it was because she had given birth to a child, but Yun Jian's skin was getting more and more tender. It was so tender that water could be squeezed out. Even when standing next to the little girl and the little fellow, Yun Jian's skin was not inferior in the slightest. At that moment, Yun Jian was carrying the little girl while Ce was carrying the little girl. The two of them walked through the entrance of the infant training center. When they arrived at the entrance of the infant training class, Ce handed the little boy to Yun Jian. Yun Jian held them in each arm. "I'll wait for you in the car," Ce said with a gentle glance at Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded and carried the two children into the infant training class. This was the place where mothers were taught how to take care of their children, such as the breathing exercises for childbirth, bathing the babies, massage classes, and so on. Adult males were not allowed to enter during the classes, because they would also teach her how to breastfeed the child properly. It was Yun Jian's first time bringing the two children. Just as they entered the infant training center, a mother carrying a naughty boy came over to greet Yun Jian. "Hello, are you here alone too? Let's keep each other company." Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 24:10. Looking around the infant training class, the mothers were basically in groups of 2 or 3. In other words, the housewives who could afford to attend the infant training class and had the time were generally above 30 years old. Looking around the infant training class, there were very few mothers above 25 years old. This did not mean that Yun Jian was the only one who was born early. It was just that before the age of 25, the average married couple would definitely not be able to afford to attend the infant training class even if they had children. After the age of 30, they would realize the importance of taking good care of their bodies after giving birth. In addition, their families already had enough money to spend, so naturally, they would sign up for the infant training class to better understand how to take care of their children. In fact, the people in the countryside relied on the experience of raising children passed on by the previous generation, and then brought up their children carelessly. Some women in the city who had realized the importance of taking good care of their bodies after giving birth early would come here to learn. Moreover, generally above the age of 30, their friends and classmates of the same age would generally have children. Therefore, they could generally go to the infant training class in groups of 3 or 5 to learn together. On the other hand, Yun Jian, the young mother who was carrying a naughty boy, came alone. And this young mother who greeted Yun Jian was not old. In fact, her real age was only 23 years old, only 4 years older than Yun Jian. Well, okay. Yun Jian nodded after hearing the young mother's words, and then walked inside with the 2 children in her arms. The little girl had been holding Yun Jian's clothes tightly, looking around with a face of fear. The little fellow, on the other hand, looked around indifferently. The moment the little girl turned her head away, he reached out and gently poked his sister's cheek. So smooth and tender. The little boy was the elder brother, and the little girl was the younger sister. When the 2 were born, the little boy was squeezed out of the mother's womb before the little girl, so he became the elder brother. Yun Jian agreed to the young mother's request for no other reason than that she could learn how to kill people at the fastest speed. She could kill people in one move without leaving any trace. Her decisiveness in killing was popular all over the world. However, she did not know how to change the children's diapers and clothes at all. Therefore, he needed someone to teach him step by step. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the young mother was pleasantly surprised and said, "That's great." Then she hugged her 2 children tightly and said to Yun Jian, "My child's name is Wang Dongdong. He's already 9 months old. My name is Wang Xiaolan. I'm a single mother. I'm raising my own child. What about you? What's your name? Also, the 2 babies in your arms are so cute. They're not like my baby, who looks like a monkey." Wang Xiaolan gently poked the little fellow and the little girl's cheeks lovingly, and then complained that her children were ugly. "Yun Jian, they don't have names yet," Yun Jian said briefly. "Is that so? Huh, I see that you're still very young. You gave birth at such a young age, but your figure hasn't changed at all after giving birth. Before I gave birth to the baby, I weighed about 90 kilograms. Now, I'm already 120 kilograms." Wang Xiaolan was the kind of person who liked to talk, so she quickly talked to Yun Jian. Yun Jian had been listening all the time. The infant training class was actually a teacher holding a fake baby on the stage to demonstrate some simple movements to everyone, and then let the mothers follow. When Yun Jian changed the diapers for the little fellow and the little girl, the diapers were changed upside down. In the end, Wang Xiaolan helped Yun Jian change and then carefully guided Yun Jian. Yun Jian also learned to change the diapers for the little fellow. But halfway through, the little fellow suddenly kicked Yun Jian's sunglasses uncomfortably. This kick kicked off Yun Jian's sunglasses. When Yun Jian just reached out to put the sunglasses back, a figure suddenly sounded, "It's really you. I thought you looked familiar just now, but I didn't expect it to be you." Hearing this voice, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and turned her head. But she happened to see that the person who spoke was none other than the girl from the most awesome team who told Yun Jian to wait and see in the military region just now. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2411. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. The girl was Dong Lijia, a member of the Most Awesome team. When Zhu Ao stopped the Most Awesome squad from attacking Yun Jian in the military zone just now, Dong Lijia had told Yun Jian, "She's just a girl. You don't make a difference. Do you think Team Monarch can make a comeback with you? Just wait and see." Dong Lijia's ability ranking in the Most Awesome team was rather high. Of course, Dong Lijia was not in the infant training class. There was more than one class in the infant training base. Dong Lijie wanted to check on her grandson's training but did not expect to see Yunjian at the staircase. Instead of seeing Yunjian, it was more accurate to say that she saw Yunjian's clothes and found them familiar, so she followed her. Dong Lijie had been standing at the entrance of the infant training class. When she saw Yunjian's sunglasses being kicked off by the little one to reveal her face, Dong Lijie walked over after confirming that it was Yunjian. I didn't expect Team Monarch slashing God to already have a child. Dong Lijie was enraged at the thought of her team leader, Zhu Ao, meeting Yunjian for the first time. She gritted her teeth as she spoke. Team Monarch? Slashing God? Those around them were housewives. They were all stunned when they heard what Dong Lijie said to Yunjian. What was going on? You're still playing computer games? Both of you look pretty young. It's better to play less games in the future. It's bad for your health. Wang Xiaolan spoke up after a pause at Dong Lijie's words. Yunjian and Dong Lijie were stunned when they heard what Wang Xiaolan said. Wang Xiaolan thought Team Monarch and Slashing God were characters in computer games. Of course, even if Wang Xiaolan was wrong, Yunjian and Dong Lijie would not explain. For tomorrow's mission, I'd advise Team Monarch to cover for us, or I'll tell everyone that you gave birth in secret. Dong Lijie ignored Wang Xiaolan. She thought that she had found Yunjian's weakness and said coldly to Yunjian. After saying this, Dong Lijie did not intend to continue the conversation with Yunjian. She grabbed her black handbag and swaggered out. Have you guys been poisoned by the game? Yunjian, let me tell you, one of my relatives' children only knew how to play games all day because he had a desktop computer installed. In the end, he played until his entire body was paralyzed. It's better to play less computer games in the future. Wang Xiaolan said this for Yunjian's sake. She also thought that Yunjian and Dong Lijie's words were because they were too addicted to the game. After all, in 2004, the rich had already started to popularize computers. Once the computer game was released, it became popular because everyone was interested in this magical game. Yunjian nodded, not intending to explain to Wang Xiaolan. However, just as Yunjian was about to continue learning how to change diapers, Dong Lijie, who had just left, came back. I forgot to tell you, Slashing God. No matter how glorious your past achievements were, our most awesome team will make you admit defeat. We, who have returned from overseas, are different from you. Dong Lijie ran back just to say this. After saying this, she glanced sideways at the little fellow and the little girl. Seeing that the little fellow and the little girl were very delicate and beautiful, she couldn't help but feel a little jealous. When she turned, Dong Lijie even gave the little guy and the little girl a fierce grin. Shoo. But just as Dong Lijie turned her head to glare at the little guy fiercely, the little guy swayed his body and looked at Dong Lijie angrily, as if he knew that Dong Lijie was bullying his mama. He peed 3 times more than usual directly on Dong Lijie's face. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 24:12. The power of the boy's urine was as fierce as a rocket. It sprayed all over Dong Lijie's face, driving Dong Lijie to the brink of madness. Ah! The worst thing was that when Dong Lijie's face was suddenly sprayed with urine, she instinctively opened her mouth and screamed because she could not react in time. This heaven-defying boy's urine not only sprayed on Dong Lijie's face but also flowed into Dong Lijie's mouth when she screamed. After he finished urinating, the little guy shook his body and giggled with a comfortable expression. The little girl and the little guy were both placed on the floor covered with a blanket. Now that she saw Dong Lijie's sorry state, the little girl seemed to know that this matter was very funny. She imitated the adults and clapped her hands with her soft feet. She couldn't even straighten her feet and clapped her hands together. She even let out a giggle. In the end, the culprit who had peed all over Dong Lijie's face seemed to be amused by the little girl. The 2 children lay on the blanket like turtles that had been turned over, swaying and laughing. They looked so adorable that Yunjian's heart almost melted. Ah! He actually. Dong Lijie ran to the side as if she had gone mad. She put her hand over her mouth and dug out the urine in her mouth to vomit. It's okay. He's only a few months old. Boys' urine is very pure. Some places even use boys' urine to cook eggs. And the eggs taste so good. Quick, get a tissue and wipe it. At this moment, the infant training class teacher came over and handed a stack of napkins to Dong Lijie kindly. Dong Lijie reached into her mouth and dug. Seeing that she could not dig out the boy's urine that had accidentally flowed into her mouth, she vomited until her eyes were red and watery. She slapped the napkins away from the infant training class teacher and left Yunjian a harsh word before turning to leave while vomiting. Just you wait. I'll make Team Monarch in you. You'll no longer have the right to stay in the army. With that, she ran away. Judging by her attitude, she probably ran to the hospital to have her stomach pumped. After Dong Lijie ran away, the teacher and Wang Xiaolan, who were left behind, were stunned. Yunjian, what did she mean by army? Wang Xiaolan asked Yunjian in a daze. It seemed like Team Monarch, wasn't a game? You understand what I mean. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She did not look at Dong Lijie again. Instead, she looked at Wang Xiaolan and said something that she did not fully understand. After that, she continued to learn the parenting style taught by the infant training class teacher. At the end of the day, Adam and Mawson still couldn't think of a good name. Yunjian and Ce only brought their children back to Longmen City when they were 5 months old. Due to Dong Ruan's presence as a high-ranking official, there was no rush to register them. Before registering, they planned to get engaged. It was 10:30 p.m. Yunjian coaxed the 2 children to sleep. After putting them in the cradle, she turned around and went to the bathroom in the bedroom, intending to take a bath and sleep. Unexpectedly, just as Yunjian stepped into the bathroom, Ce followed. Yunjian had just taken off her outerwear when she saw Ce coming over. Although both of them had looked at each other naked many times, she still blushed when Ce stared at her. Who would have thought that Ce would come over and press her against the sink, and then, the children are still outside. When Ce carried her to the sink, Yunjian's cheeks were rosy. Mama ya Just as Ce was about to do something naughty, the children's voices rang in the bedroom. Hearing the voices, Yunjian dared not move an inch as if they were having an affair. In the next second, the children in the bedroom turned around. They were dreaming. They won't wake up. If they do, I'll throw them out of the door, Ce said unceremoniously. After that, he removed Yunjian's last piece of clothing. With a lift of his hand to her butt, please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version. Chapter 24:13. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. The night was hazy. In the bedroom, the 2 children were sleeping in a large cradle beside the bed. The 2 children were breathing heavily and their little mouths were opening and closing. If anyone saw their pink and tender little faces, they might not be able to resist the urge to pinch their little cheeks. All of a sudden, the older brother lifted his short leg and leaned sideways. At the same time, the little guy's leg pressed down on the little girl's stomach with a paw sound. The 2 children were about the same weight, but the little one's leg suddenly lifted and landed on her body. After all, the child was only 5 months old. Wah! The little girl suddenly burst into tears as she slept. The little one's short leg could feel the little girl's trembling as she cried. His face twitched and he frowned. The little one turned over and continued sleeping comfortably. In the bathroom, Yunjian, who was just 1 step away from the end, heard the little girl's cries and held on to Ce. She's crying. Yunjian frowned. Her heart ached so much that she wanted to go out and comfort the child. Let her cry. She'll sleep when she's tired. Ce grabbed her hand and refused to let her go. No. Yunjian wanted to say something, but her words were drowned out by Ce's handsome lips. He continued with his perverted actions. Outside the bathroom, the little girl closed her eyes and cried. Inside the bathroom, it was a romantic scene. In the end, the little girl was tired from crying and fell asleep on her own. The night was still long. At night, in the villa, the dim yellow light in the bathroom flickered until 2 in the morning. The next day, 5 in the morning. In winter, the days were short and the sky was still dark. Yunjian packed her equipment. Before leaving for the military base, she secretly kissed the 2 children. Qin Yiru was now taking care of the children at home. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya did not have to worry too much now. Qin Yiru placed all his attention on Guxing and Yunjian. After Yunjian left, Ce returned to an Hun group after 2 days in Longmen City. Before he left, however, Ce left Adam and Emosen behind to protect the children. Ce loved his and Yunjian's children very much. At least, he had left his most important assistants, Adam and Emosen, behind. Of course, this love was for Yunjian. He had to leave the children aside for now. Everything was back to normal. If she was not in good shape or had extra fat on her tummy, it would be immediately obvious when she wore such tight clothes. When Yunjian appeared before them, Dong Lijia, Team Monarch, Tier X Squad, and Most Awesome Squad, who had their faces covered in pee from the little one yesterday, gasped deeply. That perfect figure, as well as a cleavage that was bigger and rounder than before, made it hard for people to take their eyes off it. "Huh, Yunjian, what have you been eating for the past year? You've developed so well." Chu Ning came over and bumped Yunjian's shoulder with her shoulder before glancing sideways at Yunjian's chest with a perverted look. "Let's go pick our weapons." Yunjian pushed Chu Ning away and went to the armory. The members of the 3 squads were allowed to pick any weapon they wanted. However, there was a limit to the number of weapons they could bring, so they had to bring the weapon they were most comfortable with. Just as Yunjian entered the armory, Dong Lijia from Most Awesome Squad rushed in. She took the only 3 butterfly knives in the armory before Yunjian could. She then looked at Yunjian provocatively and said to her team members, "I'll pick the butterfly knife. I'm very good with butterfly knives. I once used it as a throwing knife to kill a bird flying in the sky." Obviously, Dong Lijia did not tell everyone that Yunjian had a child. She probably wanted to keep a handle on Yunjian. You had 3 butterfly knives and you took all 3 of them. Don't you think that's too much? Butterfly knives are Yunjian's specialty, how could you?" Chu Ning was stunned when she saw Dong Lijia's smug and deliberate expression. Obviously, Dong Lijia had done her research before this and knew that Yunjian was good with butterfly knives. However, Yunjian ignored Dong Lijia's smug expression and walked to the side to pick a silver pistol. She wiped the muzzle and twirled it in her hand before saying to Chu Ning, "I'll choose the pistol for this mission. I've never used a gun in front of you guys before, so you probably don't know that I'm as familiar with firearms as I am with butterfly knives." Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 24:14. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Yunjian had been using a butterfly knife in front of Chu Ning and the rest. The news that Team Monarch Slashing God was the best at using a butterfly knife had spread far and wide. However, it was a fact that Yunjian was the best at using a butterfly knife. What outsiders did not know was that apart from the butterfly knife, Yunjian was also the best at using any weapon that was related to firearms. Whether it was an airplane, a tank, a cannon, a pistol, a machine gun, a rifle, a submachine gun, or a Gatling gun, Yunjian was the best at using them all. As the number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, Slaying God had survived through bloodshed. To be able to survive through bloodshed, the most basic foundation was to be familiar with all weapons. Yunjian did not use a butterfly knife every time she went on a mission. Life was not so perfect where one could get whatever one wanted. Sometimes, one did not even have to worry about having a weapon in hand. Yun Jian had encountered many situations where she had to fight with a group of international secret agents barehanded. However, even if she did not have a weapon, she still had her hands. When she snatched the weapon from the opponent's hand, the chances of her snatching the butterfly knife that she was so familiar with was only 1 in 10,000. There were no ifs in life. If Yun Jian placed all her hopes on snatching the enemy's weapon, and the enemy's weapon happened to be the one that she was familiar with, then Yun Jian would lose. What Yun Jian had to do was snatch the weapon from the opponent's hand when she was surrounded by them barehanded. She had to ensure that she could use whatever weapon the opponent had. That was the only way for her to survive. Compared to Yun Jian, who was at the top of the world, there was no such thing as being the best or worst at using a weapon. Any weapon in her hands would become a deadly trump card. This was the purpose of her growth. Unfortunately, Dong Lijia naively thought that Yun Jian was the best at using a butterfly knife and would not know how to use any other weapon. You know how to use a gun? As far as I know, the military school that you guys studied in back then didn't give you real guns to teach you how to shoot. As for the 2 squads that returned from overseas, they only learned how to use guns after going through the training and instruction of the world-class special forces. Don't tell me you're pretending to know when you don't. Dong Lijia looked at Yun Jian in shock. Yun Jian knew how to use a gun. This made Dong Lijia's most awesome squad and all the members of the Tier X squad dumbfounded. The reason why the new commanding officer, Lu Cheng, looked down on Team Monarch was because the former members were not skilled enough. They were completely different from a group of SWAT students who had undergone actual combat training after returning from overseas. However, just as Dong Lijia and the other 2 parties apart from Team Monarch turned to look at Yun Jian in shock, Yun Jian had skillfully and professionally hidden the other weapons from the armory all over her body, leaving no trace behind. She left the armory and said to Chu Ning and the rest, "I'll wait for you outside." Yun Jian's blatant disregard made Dong Lijia even angrier. She clenched her fists. This girl's temper is quite explosive. I wonder how strong she is. But I know that hot-tempered girls usually aren't that strong. Team Monarch's strongest, slashing god, I'd like to see how strong you are. Another guy from the most awesome squad muttered to himself while rubbing his chin as he watched Yun Jian leave the armory. The guy's eyes were full of contempt for Yun Jian's strength. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 24:15. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. The guy who was mumbling to himself in the most awesome team was called Lu Yu. Lu Yu was born into a rich family. Due to his love of being a soldier, he was sent overseas to study at a special forces training school. Lu Yu was 1.73 meters tall. He was quite handsome, but he didn't hold back at all when he spoke. How good can she be? Our leader hasn't even said anything yet. She's just a member of the special forces. No matter how good she is, she can't be that good. If she was really that good, she would not be a member of the special forces but would be promoted directly. Dong Lijia heard Lu Yu's mumbling and agreed with him while mocking Yun Jian. Fortunately, Chu Xiangnan and Chu Ning did not hear Lu Yu and Dong Lijia's conversation. Otherwise, based on their tempers, they would have quarreled with Dong Lijia. Everyone gathered at the field. Before they gathered, the leader of the Tier X squad who spoke for Team Monarch yesterday led the 7 of them to Yun Jian to greet her. "Hello, I'm the leader of the Tier X squad, Tian Shuaishuai, codenamed Sang Long." The leader of the Tier X squad walked to Yun Jian and greeted Yun Jian with a nod. Tian Shuaishuai was the guy who spoke for Team Monarch yesterday. At the same time, he was the oldest and the most mature among the 3 squads. He was already 25 years old. His features were well defined and he looked like a handsome soldier. He was 1.80 meters tall and had a slender body. Tian Shuaishuai's name was a name that his parents hoped he would be more handsome when he grew up. Of course, Tian Shuaishuai's parents' wishes were not in vain. Tian Shuaishuai was indeed handsome and his skin was fair and smooth. After getting to know the 7 members of the Tier X squad, Lu Qing arrived. These are the details of your mission. It's all here. When you depart, you can think about it in detail. Moreover, the team has fabricated another identity for all of you. The difficulty of this mission is relatively high for you, but you are all new faces in the army. You haven't been assigned many missions, so you have the highest success rate. Complete it well. When Lu Cheng was serious, he was pretty good. However, right after that, Lu Cheng turned to Yun Jian and the rest. You Team Monarch, follow the two teams. Don't interfere with things that you shouldn't and hinder the progress of the mission. Yun Jian and the other 6 members of Team Monarch chose to ignore Lu Cheng's words. By the time everyone regained their senses, they were already on the plane to Country M. Because it was their first time working together on a mission, the members of the 3 teams were rather excited. Therefore, after looking through the mission information, they started to chat with their companions. Only Yun Jian flipped through the information in her hands and memorized all the information that she needed to remember. Soon, they arrived at America. The objective of this mission was to apprehend a big investor who had a great reputation in the entertainment industry. Using the excuse of training actresses, he brought countless girls into the entertainment industry and forced the girls to fall for the unspoken rules, gradually turning them into drug-addicted prostitutes. This big investor was from Country Z and had a wide network. He could be said to be popular in the entertainment industry in Country M. It could be said that many international movie stars had fallen for this big investor's unspoken rules. Moreover, this big investor paid for the girls to audition for roles and kept the pretty girls. On the surface, it was said to be a chance for them to grow and become international movie stars in the future. However, in reality, this big investor did let these girls take on various roles. At the same time, this big investor secretly sold drugs to these girls. The girls were addicted to drugs and the money they earned was all used to buy this big investor's drugs. It could be said that this big investor was a heinous existence. Naturally, the police could not just sit and wait. Therefore, they sent Yun Jian and the rest to infiltrate the entertainment industry as spies to find this big investor's drug trafficking records and arrest him. The mission was perilous. If they were not careful and got themselves into drugs, they would be done for. Before approaching this big investor with a new identity, Yun Jian and the rest went to the international intelligence platform that was cooperating with the police. Top reading website, M. Chapter 24:16. The International Intelligence Platform was a place where you could get all the information you wanted as long as you were willing to pay the corresponding price. And this time, the cooperation between the police and the International Intelligence Platform was completed together. This International Intelligence Platform was a platform center that linked to the Global Intelligence Organization. Internationally, any news that was rustling in the wind could not escape the eyes of the International Intelligence Platform. A few days later, the big investor would hold an audition for an international movie. Suddenly, many young men and women would participate in the audition. Yun Jian and the others would participate in the audition with new identities and finally compete for contact with the big investor. There were even some female police spies who had to sacrifice their beauty to get close to the target, or lurk for a few years or decades just to get evidence of the other party's drug trafficking and finally bring the other party to justice. Sacrificing themselves to save a large number of innocent girls. It had to be said that some female police spies or members of the police were really great. At this moment, Yun Jian and the others were standing in the lobby on the first floor of the International Intelligence Platform's Platform Center building. The audition had not started yet, so Yun Jian and the others arrived in Country M in advance and stayed in the hotel specially provided for them by the International Intelligence Platform. At this moment, because there were still many people to receive at the front desk, Yun Jian and the others were sitting on the sofa next to the entrance of the lobby on the first floor of the International Intelligence Platform. The International Intelligence Platform was not only an office building. In order to receive some big shots, this building was at least 35 stories high. There were also many floors that were managed like hotels and were specially reserved for some of the big shots who came here to stay temporarily. The front desk was busy, so Yun Jian and the others were still sitting on the sofa next to the front desk and waiting. The suites that the International Intelligence Platform provided for the big shots to stay in were all built in the style of five-star hotels. At this moment, Yun Jian and the others were sitting on the sofa. Chu Ning suddenly pointed to the center of the lobby, right in front of the entrance, and said with some surprise, "Hey, look, there are 10 portraits there. Some of the portraits are blurry, and I don't know what they are." Everyone looked over and saw 10 portraits hanging in the center of the International Intelligence Platform. These 10 portraits were of men and women, and some of them could not even be distinguished. However, all 10 portraits had a unique characteristic that belonged to them. For example, they held a weapon they were used to, had a tattoo on their body, or had a broken finger. For example, among the 10 portraits, the one that hung the highest was a person whose gender was unclear, but who was holding a conspicuous butterfly knife in his hand. That's right, these 10 portraits were the ones mentioned earlier. They were recognized by the International Intelligence Platform as the 10 most untouchable people in the world. Furthermore, below each of the 10 portraits, there was a description of each and every character. Doesn't the butterfly knife in the highest portrait look similar to the one in my hand? After hearing Chu Ning's words, Dong Lijie snorted coldly and stood up with the butterfly knife in her hand. As he spoke, he glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of his eye. She seemed to be showing off the butterfly knife in her hand, which was very similar to the person in the painting. Therefore, she compared herself to the person in the painting and was also valued by the International Intelligence Platform. Those 10 portraits are listed by the International Intelligence Platform as one of the most untouchable people in the world. I heard that even a large platform like the International Intelligence Platform doesn't dare to investigate their whereabouts and identities. Zhu Ao said at this moment. Are they that scary? After hearing that, Dong Lijie's reaction was the biggest as she exclaimed. Then, she swung the butterfly knife in her hand and said, "Looks like I'm somehow similar to the big shot who hung the highest portrait." As she said that, she felt smug again. However, just as Dong Lijie finished speaking, a scornful voice suddenly sounded. "They're still hanging this thing." After this figure was heard, Dong Lijie, the most awesome squad, the Tier X squad, and all the staff of the International Intelligence Platform, including everyone present, saw a young girl walking over. After the young girl said that, she walked over and tore the portrait with the words, "Slaying God," written at the bottom. Then, she said the same thing. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 24:17. Everyone present, including Dong Lijie, Zhu Ao, and Lu Yu from the Most Awesome Squad, Tian Shuaishuai from Tier X Squad, and Chu Ning from Team Monarch, were stunned. All the staff in the International Intelligence Platform Center and the crowd in and out of the building were stunned. All of them were stunned as they watched Yun Jian walk to her spot and tear down the tallest of the 10 portraits from the wall in the center of the entrance of the International Intelligence Platform, before saying what she said just now. Silence. The hall, which had been noisy just now, was now so quiet that not a single sound could be heard. Everyone's eyes widened as they watched Yun Jian tear down the portrait, stupefied. That portrait. It's slaying God. It's said that the International Intelligence Platform Center has been hanging this portrait there for a few years. Since the portrait was hung there, no one has ever dared to tear it down in public. Tearing down this portrait will not only offend the International Intelligence Platform. She might even be hunted down by Slaying God, the #1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, who has never failed a mission since her debut. Even if Slaying God won't hunt down the person who tore the portrait, one of her subordinates is the boss of the Kosha mercenaries. He's always in contact with the International Intelligence Platform. She's tearing down Slaying God's portrait. Isn't that challenging someone we can't afford to offend? What's the difference between that and seeking death? Zhu Ao, who was more knowledgeable, spoke to the 3 teams in a trembling voice after witnessing Yun Jian's actions. Oh my God. Wasn't she just asking for trouble? She's trying to kill us. We're here to carry out our mission in a low-key manner. She's here to drag us down. Dong Lijie stomped her feet on the sofa after hearing Zhu Ao's words. By then, Yun Jian had already torn the portrait that was hung at the highest point and tossed it to the ground. The people from the International Intelligence Platform Center were arrogant. She had not appeared for a few years and Diana's cooperation with the International Intelligence Platform Center was not smooth. That was right. Yun Jian planned to intimidate the International Intelligence Platform Center today and use this incident to inform the higher-ups of the International Intelligence Platform Center. If they continued to be arrogant, she would let them know who was the boss in this circle. Young lady, who are you? Why did you bomb our International Intelligence Platform? This portrait has been hanging here for a few years and no one has said a word about it. Even Slaying God herself didn't say that this portrait is not allowed to be hung here. Besides, Slaying God's Kosha Mercenaries' intelligence team leader, Madame Diani, is here. Aren't you afraid of retaliation? The International Intelligence Platform Center was the International Intelligence Platform Center was the International Intelligence Platform Center was the International Intelligence Platform Center's office. When the International Intelligence Platform Center worked with the Kosha Mercenaries intelligence team, their stubbornness was even more arrogant than this lady. Especially since Slaying God had been living in seclusion for many years and had never personally dealt with the internal affairs of the Kosha mercenaries. Yet, these people were behaving atrociously in front of Tiger. This lady was very arrogant as well. In less than 3 minutes after the lady stopped Yun Jian, Didi, the intelligence team leader of the 3 major groups of the Kosha mercenaries, appeared before everyone's eyes. Some of them were seeing Didi for the first time, so they could not help but be curious. After all, with Didi's status, some of them might not even get to know her for the rest of their lives. Madame Didi, this is the girl who tore Slaying God's portrait into pieces earlier. She even threatened us that if we hang this portrait here again, she'll bomb our International Intelligence Platform Center. The lady quickly complained when she saw Didi. However, all they saw was Didi turning to look at Yun Jian. Didi's eyes lit up when she saw Yun Jian. Naturally, she knew that Yun Jian was purposely using this method to show off to the big shots in the International Intelligence Platform Center. Didi's face was expressionless, but she turned to look at the lady. Just when the lady and everyone else thought that Yun Jian was doomed, Didi's alliance AO suddenly spoke up. In front of everyone present, Diani suddenly spoke sternly to her subordinate behind her. Burn all 10 portraits here. If there's another portrait of Slaying God of the Kosha mercenaries, I'll contact the members of the Kosha mercenaries assassination team and have them bomb your International Intelligence Platform Center's building. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website. Chapter 24:18. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Diani was smart. She went along with Yun Jian's words and did not give the white-collared lady a chance to back down. Diani was only in charge of the intelligence team. If the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, Yun Jian, did not appear, she would not have said something like, I will contact the Kosha mercenaries assassin team and directly bombard the International Intelligence Platform. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. The Kosha mercenaries also have their own rules. As the leader of the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team, even if she was at a disadvantage in the International Intelligence Platform Center, she could only report it to Yun Jian. She did not have the authority to directly contact the Kosha mercenaries assassin team and attack the International Intelligence Platform Center. But if Yun Jian appeared, the result would be different. The white-collared lady originally thought that Diani would help her deal with Yun Jian. But who would have thought that Diani would help Yun Jian deal with her? Zhu Ao, Dong Lijia, Lu Yu, Tian Shuaishuai, and the rest were shocked when they saw this scene. What was going on? Why was this woman who had just appeared speaking up for Yun Jian instead of helping the people from the International Intelligence Platform? But even so, Zhu Ao and the rest did not think that Yun Jian and the Kosha mercenaries Diani were the same. At this moment, after Diani finished speaking, a few Kosha mercenaries members immediately walked to the wall where the 10 portraits were pasted. One by one, they walked over and tore apart the portrait that Yun Jian had torn apart. People from the International Intelligence Platform Center, do you understand? Diani shouted when she saw that her people had torn the painting clean. The white-collared lady who wanted Yun Jian to give an explanation saw this scene and trembled in fear. In the end, she did not dare to say a word. After Diani and her people tore apart the 9 portraits, they did not even look at Yun Jian and turned to leave. This situation, which seemed to be able to cause chaos and riots, returned to its starting point at this moment. In the end, everyone left. International Intelligence Platform Center, Conference Room. The higher-ups of the intelligence platform were all gathered here. That's what happened earlier. I suspect that Slaying God herself came to L City in Country M and found that girl to tear up her portrait. Using that girl's name, she's giving us a warning. A male secretary trembled as he told the news he had just received to the group of senior executives of the International Intelligence Platform. Hasn't Slaying God been living in seclusion for so many years? It's not the first time we've embezzled the Wuxia mercenaries' intelligence team. She should have known about it and allowed it. Why is she doing it again? A very short, shifty-eyed middle-aged man with an excessively indulgent look on his face cautiously said. The middle-aged man shuddered as he spoke. Then what should we do? All these years, we've embezzled the Wuxia mercenaries' intelligence team. The amount isn't small anymore. Someone said. At this moment, the director of the International Intelligence Platform, who was sitting in front of all the shareholders and represented the most powerful authority, suddenly stood up. He frowned and spoke to the crowd. Since Diani dared to say that she contacted the Wuxia mercenaries' assassination team to attack us, it means that Slaying God must have stepped in. Diani alone wouldn't have had to tolerate us until now. Slaying God, who used to turn a blind eye to such trivial matters, had stepped in. The group of senior executives of the International Intelligence Platform felt fear and trepidation for the first time in a few years. It was as if there was a pair of eyes staring at them from the dark, ready to send them to hell at any time. Finally, the director of the International Intelligence Platform frowned and spoke to all the shareholders. Immediately revoke the embezzlement of the Wuxia mercenaries' intelligence team. Find a day and I'll go personally to apologize. Compared to money and life is more important. Top reading website, M. Chapter 24:19. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Slaying God, the #1 secret agent on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, would send shivers down the spines of any international bigwigs who were related to her. This was definitely not a casual remark. That was indeed the case. Ever since Yun Jian gave them a warning, the higher-ups of the International Intelligence Platform no longer dared to pursue the matter with Yun Jian. They had nightmares for the past few days and could not even sleep well in the middle of the night. They were woken up by nightmares a few times during the night as if a pair of grim reapers' eyes were staring at them from the dark, ready to take their lives at any time. Slaying God had actually done something like that before. Wuxia Mercenaries was not an independent organization. An organization had to work with countless large international companies to be able to develop for a long period of time. When Slaying God first took over Wuxia Mercenaries, a large company thought that she was a pushover, so they pocketed the Wuxia Mercenaries' resources. In the end, the company's higher-ups died mysteriously one after another. Everyone in the world knew that Slaying God was not the culprit behind the mysterious deaths of the company's higher-ups. Slaying God's warning today reminded the higher-ups of the International Intelligence Platform of the company that pocketed the Wuxia mercenaries' resources and the mysterious deaths that followed. At the same time, Yun Jian, who struck fear into their hearts, had obtained a room card for the International Intelligence Platform. It was a hotel for 2 people. Yun Jian would stay with Chu Ning while Jiang Weiwei would stay with a girl from Tier X squad. The remaining 4 guys from Team Monarch would be paired in pairs. With the room card in hand, Yun Jian and the rest got into the elevator first. However, before they reached the elevator, Zhu Ao had already chased after them with his strongest squad. They blocked the elevator and glared at Yun Jian. "Don't you think you owe us an explanation?" Yun Jian smirked at Zhu Ao's words. "What explanation? What happened just now? Team Monarch is just a cover for us. You have to report to us if you're doing anything in the future. Those were Officer Lu's exact words. It's fine if you don't listen. Do you know whose portrait you tore just now? If this matter gets out of hand, not only you, but all of us will be implicated by you. Before Zhu Ao could speak again, Dong Lijie took Zhu Ao's place and questioned Yun Jian. Before they came, Lu Cheng had told the 7 members of Team Monarch that they had to obey Tier X Squad and the most powerful squad's arrangements. Because Team Monarch was the weakest of the 7. However, Yun Jian obviously did not intend to listen to the arrangement. Sorry, I don't intend to listen to anyone's orders. As for what your commanding officer said, that was his arrangement, not mine. My goal is to complete the mission. As for covering for you, you don't have the qualifications to hire me. Yun Jian crossed her arms as she looked at Zhu Ao, Dong Lijie, and the others. Just as Zhu Ao, Dong Lijie, and the others were stupefied by what Yun Jian said, Yun Jian spoke again. You're right, I'm not wrong. By the way, I've never planned to work with you guys from the beginning. You're full of nonsense and pestering me about things you shouldn't ask. You guys don't have the qualifications to work with me to complete the mission. Yun Jian's words were straightforward and her meaning was clear. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Zhu Ao and Dong Lijie were stunned. Dong Lijie looked at Yun Jian and wanted to say, you, however, before Dong Lijie could finish, Yun Jian had already turned to the Tier X squad. In front of everyone, she mercilessly said something so cold-blooded that it was unbelievable. I'll do the same to you guys. If you don't want to work with me, you can complete the mission on your own. Whether you live or die, it has nothing to do with me. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2420. Page 1/1. Yun Jian's retort to the members of the Most Awesome Squad was understandable. After all, the members of the Most Awesome Squad had never given Yun Jian any face. However, the members of the Tier X Squad had always been nice to Yun Jian and the members of Team Monarch. In fact, when the members of the Most Awesome Squad were going against Team Monarch, they would even stand up for Team Monarch. However, she was Yun Jian, not the Virgin Mary. It wasn't that she would be unswervingly nice to anyone who treated her a little better. If that was the case, there were plenty of people in this world who needed her kindness. That's all I have to say. In short, as long as I'm here, none of you will be the first to complete the mission. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around. Her long and elegant ponytail fluttered in the air before falling down. Her every movement was filled with an indescribable spirit. After Yun Jian finished speaking, her slender figure disappeared from everyone's sight. Yun Jian had never needed teammates when she was on a mission. Teammates were indispensable to those who were not strong enough to protect themselves. However, Yun Jian had always been a lone wolf when she was on a mission. She did not need anyone. That was because teammates were just burdens to her. She. Hearing Yun Jian's cold-blooded and inhumane words, Dong Lijie pointed at the spot where Yun Jian had disappeared and spoke in a daze. Seeing that no one was speaking and the members of the Tier X squad were feeling awkward, Dong Lijie retracted her hand. I thought we could work together. Tian Shuaishuai scratched his head awkwardly. After all, before the mission, Yun Jian and the members of the Tier X squad were on good terms. Tian Shuaishuai was shocked that Yun Jian would say something like that to the members of the Tier X squad. You don't have to feel awkward. Yun Jian is such a person. She's always been on her own. Even if she's with us, we won't interfere when necessary. Because we will only drag her down. This is already a tacit understanding between us. Chu Xiangnan noticed Tian Shuaishuai's awkwardness at a glance, so he spoke to Tian Shuaishuai and the others. Oh, I see. After Tian Shuaishuai heard that, the subtle atmosphere was indeed eased a lot. What burden. She's just a member of Team Monarch. Even if she's the best in Team Monarch, you don't have to praise her to the skies, do you? I really don't know what you guys are thinking. Don't tell me you think that she's Team Monarch's trump card and that she alone can complete this difficult mission? Dong Lijie glared at the Team Monarch members and said rudely. Heh, this chick is getting more and more interesting. I really want to see how powerful she really is. Lu Yu said after seeing Yun Jian walk away and hearing Chu Xiangnan's words. These words carried a sense of mockery that could not be washed away. The group stayed in the International Intelligence Platform building for 2 days. 2 days later, the audition for the target, the big investor's new movie officially began. For the audition, other than the male and female lead, the big investor intended to choose the roles for all the supporting roles, secondary female leads, and secondary male leads. During the audition, the person choosing the roles was not the big investor, but the director of the big movie, Mr. Milland. In other words, they had to pass the audition in order to get in touch with the target, the big investor, and find evidence of the big investor's drug trafficking. On this day, Dong Lijie and the others hired a makeup artist to dress them up before they were ready to leave for the audition. Zhu Ao, Lu Yu, and the other men did not miss out on makeup either. Just as they were ready to leave, Yun Jian finally left the hotel she was staying in. No one knew what Yun Jian was doing during this time. Usually, those who auditioned for roles would dress up meticulously to increase the success rate. Yun Jian, on the other hand, slashing God, you're not putting on makeup. Are you planning to be eliminated in this audition? I heard that if you're eliminated in this audition, it means that you won't even be able to get in touch with the target. You'll be sent back to Country Z directly to fail the mission. Top reading website, M. Chapter 24-21. Dong Lijie was sitting on the sofa in the lounge of the International Intelligence Platform Center. A makeup artist was standing in front of her, dolling her up meticulously. Seeing Yun Jian walk past her, Dong Lijie could not help but mock Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian merely glanced at her from the corner of her eyes and left with 3 words. No need. TSK, what's there to be cocky about? Just don't cry when you get eliminated. Dong Lijie rolled her eyes. Perhaps this is the girl's way of fighting. Lu Yu said sarcastically again. When she said that, there was a hint of disdain in her eyes. Before Yun Jian left, she greeted the 6 members of Team Monarch and told them that even if they were eliminated from the audition, she had other ways to get them close to the big investor. The 6 members of Team Monarch had always trusted Yun Jian. Therefore, they nodded at Yun Jian without any hesitation. The successful audition this time was Country M's international director, Milland. Milland was an internationally renowned director. He once directed a movie that sold the highest box office in the world at the time, becoming a household name in one fell swoop. He was quite famous. The location of Milland's audition was set up in an open-air plaza that had been temporarily set up. The residents nearby could also come and watch the show. Milland was sitting in the best position among the judges. There were many people who signed up for the audition this time. After all, if they were successful in the audition and participated in the movie directed by the international director, Milland, it was very likely that they would become a hit overnight. That was the dream of countless young girls and boys. The audition for the roles was done in order. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It went on like that. Yun Jian's number was 66. Those who were numbered had to fill out the form in advance to the judges and recite the lines of the audition for the role they chose. It was not as simple as reciting the lines. The audition candidate had to act like a qualified actor, reciting the lines and acting out the lines at the same time. Of course, everyone who came for the audition only had to recite the lines of the character they chose. The venue was filled with audition candidates. Those who were waiting for the audition were trying their best to memorize their lines so that they would not memorize the wrong lines on stage later and lose the chance to pass the audition. Even Dong Lijie, Zhu Ao, and the others were trying their best to memorize their lines. Yun Jian, on the other hand, was sitting on the side, covering her face with the notebook that contained her information and lines she was supposed to memorize as she closed her eyes to take a light nap. I thought she's really good. Is she planning to give up on the audition right now? Dong Lijie scoffed when she saw Yun Jian covering her face with the book, not planning to memorize her lines at all. At this moment, Chu Ning walked to Yun Jian's side and asked Yun Jian excitedly, "Yun Jian, what role did you choose?" Yun Jian was only in a light sleep. She did not open her eyes and handed the little notebook covering her face to Chu Ning. Dong Lijie and Lu Yu glanced at Chu Ning and Yun Jian contemptuously and ignored them. Suddenly, they heard Chu Ning speak again. "Odessa, you're auditioning for the role of Odessa." The role of Odyssey was the most difficult role in this movie. That's because the role of Odessa is an international assassin. The fight scenes of the assassin in this movie can't be acted out by anyone who isn't an expert. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website. Chapter 24-22. But Yun Jian, this is your true character performance. Chu Ning said the last sentence very softly. After saying this, Chu Ning revealed her front teeth and giggled. The candidates around them were all waiting to go on stage for the audition. They were afraid that they would not be able to memorize their lines due to nervousness, so everyone was frantically trying to memorize their lines. Some of them were so nervous that they were trembling all over. Even their teeth and lips were trembling. Chu Ning said the last sentence very softly. No one around them heard it, but it was heard by Dong Lijie, the Tier X squad, and the most awesome squad. They were all waiting to hear what kind of character Yun Jian had chosen. What true character performance? I think she's confused us with assassins. Assassins are all about killing moves. Does she really think she's a trump card? She should look at herself in the mirror. Dong Lijie snorted disdainfully. She glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of her eyes and mocked her in a voice that only the 3 special squads could hear. Who cares if I'm an old woman? I think you haven't even memorized your lines. You should worry about yourself. Chu Xiangnan had always been on Chu Ning's side. After hearing Dong Lijie's words, he looked at Dong Lijie with disdain and retorted without holding back. Old woman? Who are you calling an old woman? Dong Lijie stood up angrily. I'm talking about whoever answered. Chu Xiangnan shrugged and replied. You. Dong Lijie was angered by Chu Xiangnan's words. She stood up and wanted to hit him. Number 60, please come on stage, the staff member in charge of the order of appearance shouted. The number tag on Dong Lijie's chest was number 60. Dong Lijie gave Yun Jian a provocative look before she went on stage. Who didn't know that Dong Lijie had studied acting before she joined the special squad? She was even fortunate enough to receive the guidance of a world-class acting master. Therefore, her acting skills were naturally not a problem. On stage, Dong Lijie used the fake identity that the army had made up for them to introduce herself. Then, she began her performance. The role that Dong Lijie chose was a female supporting character that didn't appear much. From his appearance, demeanor, expression, and voice, it was impossible to find a single flaw. Even Mr. Milland, who had been pulling a long face and hadn't smiled since the start of the audition, grinned and applauded. He said in English, his highest praise since the start of the audition, "Good." This greatly satisfied Dong Lijie's vanity. After getting off the stage. Amazing. You're really something. As soon as Dong Lijie got off the stage, a female member of the most awesome team praised Dong Lijie. It's nothing, Dong Lijie raised her head proudly and glanced at Yun Jian with contempt. Yun Jian ignored her completely. Number 66, please come to the stage. It was not until the first number was passed that the staff member's voice sounded again, and everyone came back to their senses. Yun Jian went on stage. The words Aodhan appeared on a big screen on the side, indicating that Yun Jian had chosen to audition for the role of Aodhan. When they saw that Yun Jian was auditioning for the role of Aodhan, everyone present was stunned. After all, the role of Aodhan was the most difficult of all the roles to audition for. Aodhan appeared more often in a movie, but Aodhan had the least lines. Every time she appeared, she had to use her eyes to convey everything. And her expression, from inside out, made people feel that she was a cold-blooded killer. 2 people had already tried to audition for Aodhan. The lines were the same. The scene was a battlefield filled with flames and smoke. Aodhan stepped on a large pile of corpses, raised her slightly lowered head slowly, and said to her subordinates, "Kill them all." The 2 people who auditioned for Aodhan didn't feel anything at all. Now that Yun Jian was on stage, everyone was inevitably curious. At that moment, Yun Jian was already standing in front of the judges. Everyone thought that Yun Jian would give a simple self-introduction, but who knew that Yun Jian would go on stage with her head lowered, making people feel that she was a little afraid. But when Yun Jian walked to the center of the stage, her somewhat fearful aura changed. Her red arc was slightly raised, as if she was a killer in the middle of a bloody massacre. She slowly raised her sharp eyes. That pair of red, bloodshot eyes made all the judges and audience tense up in fright. That playful half-smile made everyone's hair stand on end. At this moment, the girl suddenly smoothed out that playful half-smile. She raised her head like a king, as if she was stepping on thousands of skeletons. That simple and ordinary word that made people's hearts skip a beat stood out. Kill them all. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.